Hi guys, tonight we step into a world that feels almost unfamiliar, even though it belongs to the deepest part of our shared past. You find yourself standing in a vast open landscape where the air is cool and still, and the darkness settles more completely than anything you have known before. There are no distant lights, no flickering flames, no quiet glow waiting somewhere ahead. Only the fading trace of daylight slipping slowly beneath the horizon. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like it, let me know where you are in the world right now and what time it is where you are. It is always interesting to see how far this quiet journey reaches. Now dim the lights and let yourself step a little further into the dark. You pause for a moment, allowing your eyes to adjust. The last hints of sunlight stretch thin across the sky, leaving behind a soft fading glow. Around you, the land feels wide and open. There are no roads, no buildings, no signs of anything shaped by human hands beyond the simplest traces. This is a time long before cities, long before written words, long before even the smallest spark of fire has ever been controlled by human beings. In fact, early humans lived for tens of thousands of years without knowing how to create or maintain fire. Some researchers suggest that while natural fires from lightning may have been observed, the ability to use fire regularly came much later in human development, possibly around 400,000 years ago. Others believe it could have been earlier, though the evidence remains uncertain and open to interpretation. You take a slow step forward, feeling the ground beneath your feet. It is uneven, shaped by wind and water rather than tools or design. Small stones press gently against your skin, and the air carries a faint scent of earth and distant vegetation. Without fire, the night arrives quickly and fully. There is no gentle transition lit by torches or lamps. Darkness settles like a quiet presence surrounding everything at once. And you begin to notice something else. The silence is different here. Not empty, but layered. You hear distant movements. A rustle in the grass. The faint call of an animal somewhere far off. These sounds do not feel separate from the world. They feel like part of it, woven into the same steady rhythm. You move carefully, your steps slow and deliberate. Without artificial light, your awareness shifts. Your hearing becomes more important. Your sense of touch sharpens. Even the air against your skin begins to feel like a source of information. Some historians suggest that early humans relied heavily on these heightened senses to navigate their environment. Without fire to extend the day, human activity was closely tied to sunlight. When the sun set, movement slowed and rest became necessary not just for comfort but for survival. You lower yourself, slightly resting near a cluster of rocks. The surface is cool beneath your hands. There is no warmth waiting for you here. No fire to gather round. No glowing embers to ease the chill of the evening. And you might find yourself wondering, how did they manage this night after night? Scholars remain divided on how early humans coped with the cold before fire. Some propose that they relied on thick animal hides for insulation, while others suggest that simply staying close together provided enough shared warmth to endure milder climates. You draw your arms in, slightly noticing the temperature more clearly now. It is not unbearable, but it is constant. A steady coolness that does not fade. The sky above you deepens into darkness, and gradually the stars begin to appear. Without light pollution, the night sky reveals itself in a way that feels almost overwhelming. Countless points of light stretch across the sky, forming patterns that seem both random and strangely familiar. Early humans would have seen this same sky every night. Some researchers believe that these repeated observations may have contributed to early forms of memory and pattern recognition. Over time, certain stars and constellations could have become markers, helping to guide movement across the land. You tilt your head slightly, watching as more stars emerge. There is a quiet beauty here, a calm that exists even within uncertainty. But beneath that calm there is also a subtle tension. You're not alone in this landscape. Somewhere beyond your immediate view, other creatures move through the night. Larger animals, more adapted to darkness, more comfortable within it. Without fire, there is no easy way to keep them at a distance. You listen again. A soft shift, a distant step, then stillness. Your body responds before your thoughts fully form. A slight tightening in your chest, a quiet awareness spreading through your senses. This constant alertness was a part of daily life for early humans. Without the protection that fire would later provide, they had to rely on vigilance group awareness and the ability to react quickly. You remain still for a moment, allowing the feeling to pass. Gradually the tension eases. You notice your breathing again, slow, steady. The ground beneath you feels firm. The air moves gently across your skin. The sounds around you settle into something more predictable. This is the rhythm of a world without fire, a world where each night is longer, each shadow deeper, each moment shaped by the natural limits of light and warmth. And yet life continues here. You shift slightly, finding a more comfortable position among the rocks. Your body begins to relax even in the absence of comfort as you might understand it today. It is a different kind of rest. Not complete, not entirely safe, but enough. Some anthropologists suggest that early humans may have adopted shorter, lighter sleep patterns, waking frequently throughout the night. This would have allowed them to remain aware of their surroundings while still gaining enough rest to continue the next day. You close your eyes for a moment. The sounds do not disappear. They remain steady and quiet. The distant movements, the soft wind, the subtle presence of life continuing around you. When you open your eyes again, the sky has shifted slightly. Time passes differently here, marked not by clocks, but by the slow movement of stars and the gradual cooling of the air. And as you sit in this quiet darkness, you begin to understand something simple yet profound. Before fire, human life was shaped entirely by the natural world. There was no separation, no barrier between people and their environment. Every sound mattered. Every change in light carried meaning. Every movement required awareness. It is a way of living that feels distant now, almost unimaginable. Today we can light a room with a simple switch. We can warm our homes instantly. We can extend our days far beyond the setting of the sun. But here in this early moment of human history, none of that exists. Only the land, the sky, the quiet presence of night, and you learning to exist within it. You take one last slow breath, letting the cool air settle in your chest. The darkness no longer feels unfamiliar. It feels like something you are beginning to understand. You begin to notice the first hint of light returning not as a sudden brightness, but as a gradual softening of the darkness around you. The sky shifts from deep black to a muted grey, and the shapes of the land slowly reappear. The rocks beside you, the uneven ground, the distant outline of low hills all come back into view as if they had simply been waiting. You rise carefully, your body still carrying the quiet heaviness of the night. The air feels colder just before sunrise, a lingering chill that settles into your skin. Without fire, there has been no source of warmth to carry you through the dark hours, only the slow rhythm of your own body conserving energy. This moment just before the sun fully rises is one of the most delicate parts of the day. You stretch slightly, feeling the stiffness in your muscles. It is not discomfort in the way you might think of it today, but a natural result of sleeping lightly on hard ground, always half aware, always ready to respond. As the first light touches the horizon, everything begins to change. A soft glow spreads across the land, revealing colours that had been hidden through the night. Pale greens, muted browns, and the faint shimmer of morning dew resting on leaves and grass. The world feels quieter, but also more open, as if it is slowly waking alongside you. Early humans depended entirely on this light. A widely accepted understanding among researchers is that before the control of fire, human activity followed the sun almost completely. There was little reason and little ability to move safely in darkness, so the day became the centre of all movement, work and exploration. You take a step forward, then another, letting your body adjust to motion again. There is no clear path, no marked trail. The land stretches in every direction, shaped only by natural forces, and yet you do not feel lost. Instead, you begin to notice small details that guide you: the direction of the light, the slope of the ground, the way certain plants cluster together. These are not signs in the way modern life defines them, but they are patterns, and over time patterns become familiar. Some scholars suggest that early humans developed a strong spatial awareness, allowing them to remember landscapes in detail. Without maps or written records, memory itself became a tool for survival, helping individuals return to water sources, shelter, and areas where food could be found. You move toward a slightly lower area where the ground appears darker. As you approach, you hear it before you see it. A faint, steady sound. Water, a narrow stream, comes into view its surface, catching the early light. The sound is gentle, almost calming, as it moves over small stones and shallow bends. This is not just a pleasant sight. It is essential. Water shapes movement. You kneel beside the stream, lowering your hands into the cool flow. The sensation is immediate. Sharp at first, then steady. You bring the water to your mouth, tasting its clarity. Without fire, there is no boiling, no purification as you might know it today. Early humans drank directly from natural sources, relying on instinct and experience to choose safer locations. Flowing water was often preferred, as it was less likely to carry harmful elements than still pools. Researchers continue to question how early humans avoided illness in these conditions. Some suggest that gradual exposure may have built certain tolerances, while others believe that survival often depended on simple chance and constant movement. You sit for a moment longer listening to the stream. Around you, the world becomes more active. Small animals begin to move through the grass. Birds call from unseen branches. The stillness of night gives way to a quiet energy that builds slowly, not rushed, not overwhelming. You stand again, following the stream as it curves gently through the land. There is no fixed destination, but there is purpose in your movement. Water often leads to other resources. Plants grow more densely here. Animals pass through, leaving subtle traces behind. You notice a set of faint marks near the edge of the stream. Tracks. They are not sharp or clearly defined, but they are enough to suggest recent movement. Perhaps a small animal came here during the night or early morning. Perhaps something larger passed through not long ago. You pause observing. This kind of attention was essential. Early humans relied heavily on reading their environment. Tracks, broken branches, disturbed soil all provided information. These signs could lead to food or signal danger. Some historians suggest that this constant observation helped shape the development of human cognition. The ability to interpret subtle clues, to connect patterns, to anticipate movement all became part of daily life. You step carefully, choosing your path with intention. The ground shifts slightly under your feet, softer near the water, firmer as you move away. Each step requires awareness. There is no separation between you and the environment. You are part of it, moving within its limits. As the sun rises higher, warmth begins to return, though gently. It does not replace the chill completely, but it softens it. You feel it on your skin, a gradual change that brings a quiet sense of relief. This warmth, limited though it is, becomes one of the most important elements of your day. Without fire, sunlight is the only reliable source of heat. Some researchers propose that early humans may have chosen resting places based on sun exposure, seeking open areas during cooler periods and shade when the heat became too strong. In this way, the sun itself shaped daily decisions. You continue walking, following the natural curve of the land. There is no urgency, but there is no stillness either. Movement is constant, guided by need, by instinct, by the quiet understanding that staying in one place too long can limit opportunities for food and safety. You notice a cluster of low plants growing near a patch of softer soil. Their leaves are broad, slightly darker than the surrounding grass. You kneel beside them, examining their shape, their texture. This is not random curiosity. It is learned behavior passed through observation and repetition. Some plants provide nourishment, others do not. Some historians suggest that early humans developed extensive knowledge of edible plants long before agriculture. This knowledge was not written or recorded, but remembered, shared within small groups and refined over generations. You reach out, touching the leaves lightly. There is a faint scent, subtle but noticeable. You pause, considering. This moment reflects a quieter aspect of early human life. Not just survival in its most urgent form, but the gradual accumulation of understanding. Learning what can be eaten. Learning what should be avoided. Researchers remain divided on how quickly this knowledge spread among early human groups. Some suggest it developed slowly through trial and error, while others believe social learning allowed important discoveries to be shared more efficiently. You sit back slightly, taking in the surroundings once more. The sun is now fully above the horizon. The land is clear and visible in all directions. The sounds of movement continue steady and natural. This is your world, a place without fire, without artificial warmth, without the extended comfort of light beyond the day. And yet it is not empty. It is full of detail, full of quiet signals, full of rhythms that guide your movement, your choices, your awareness. You take a slow breath, feeling the air fill your chest. The day has begun, and you move forward with it. You begin to feel the cold more clearly as the morning settles into a steady rhythm. Even with the sun rising, the warmth it offers is gentle and limited. It touches your skin lightly, never quite reaching deep enough to fully replace the chill that lingered through the night. Without fire, warmth is never something you can create. It is something you must find, something you must hold on to when it appears. You move slowly across the open ground, noticing how your body responds to the temperature. Your arms stay closer to your sides, your shoulders remain slightly drawn in. These are small adjustments, but they happen without thought, shaped by repetition over time. Early humans lived constantly within this balance between warmth and cold. A well-supported understanding suggests that before, the use of fire survival depended heavily on climate. In warmer regions, early human groups could remain active year-round with fewer challenges from temperature. In colder areas, however, the lack of controlled heat made survival far more difficult. You pause near a patch of taller grass, feeling the sunlight more directly now. It lands across your shoulders, your face, your hands. For a moment there is a subtle shift in your comfort. It is not dramatic, but it matters. You turn slightly, adjusting your position so that more of your body faces the light. This simple movement reflects an important behavior. Without artificial heat, early humans likely relied on direct sunlight to regulate their body temperature throughout the day. Some researchers suggest that this need influenced daily routines in quiet but meaningful ways. Morning movement might begin slowly, allowing the sun to rise before full activity. Midday could offer the greatest comfort, while evening would bring a gradual return to cold. You take a few steps forward, scanning the land for areas where the sunlight lingers longer. Open spaces free from dense vegetation allow more warmth to reach the ground. These areas feel slightly different underfoot, drier, softer, more exposed. You settle briefly on a flat patch of earth, letting the sun rest on you. There is a stillness here, a quiet moment where movement pauses not out of exhaustion but out of awareness. You're not just passing through the environment, you're adjusting to it, responding to its subtle changes. Scholars remain divided on how early humans coped with colder climates before fire. Some propose that simple clothing made from animal hides provided insulation. Others suggest that early humans avoided extreme cold regions altogether until they had better tools and strategies. You glance down at your hands, imagining the rough texture of animal skin wrapped around your body. It would not be soft or finely shaped, but it would serve a purpose. Protection, insulation, a barrier between your skin and the air. Even so, it would not fully replace the warmth of fire. You stand again, continuing your slow movement across the land. The ground rises slightly, leading you toward a cluster of stones that catch the sunlight more directly. As you approach, you notice something interesting. The stones feel warmer than the surrounding earth. You place your hand against one, sensing the stored heat from the morning light. It is faint but noticeable. This is a small detail easy to overlook, but it reflects a broader truth. Without fire, early humans may have used natural elements to capture and retain warmth. Sunlit rocks sheltered areas, and even the positioning of the body itself could make a difference. You sit beside the stones, letting the warmth reach you more fully. The air still carries a cool edge, but here, in this specific place, the balance shifts slightly in your favour, and you might find yourself thinking how much of daily life was shaped by these small choices. Researchers continue to question how much awareness early humans had of these subtle environmental advantages. Some believe that through constant exposure, these behaviours became instinctive. Others suggest that learning within small groups allowed useful habits to spread gradually. You rest for a moment longer, then look out across the landscape. There is movement in the distance, not urgent, not threatening, but present. A small group of animals move slowly across the open ground, their bodies catching the light in brief flashes. They follow no visible path, yet their direction feels purposeful. You watch them, noticing how they move in relation to the sun, how they pause, how they continue. Observation like this was a quiet but essential part of early human life. Some historians suggest that early humans learned not only from direct experience, but also by watching other animals. Where they moved, when they rested, how they responded to changes in temperature. All of this could provide valuable information. You rise again, adjusting your position slightly to keep the sun within reach as you walk. The warmth shifts as the day progresses. It is never constant. It must be followed, maintained through movement and awareness. You notice your breathing steady and calm. Your body has adapted to this rhythm. There is no expectation of sudden comfort. Only the understanding that each moment brings its own conditions. As you continue, you come across a shallow depression in the ground, partially sheltered by a cluster of low plants. The air here feels slightly less exposed. The wind moves differently, softer, less direct. You step into the space, testing its effect. It is subtle, but it matters. This kind of natural shelter could reduce the impact of cold winds, offering a small advantage. Early humans likely used such spaces when available, choosing resting points that provided even the slightest improvement in comfort. Some scholars suggest that these early decisions eventually influenced the development of more structured shelters. Over time, the idea of shaping the environment for comfort may have begun with simple choices like this. You lower yourself again, sitting within the shallow shelter. The sun continues its slow movement across the sky. Shadows shift, the light changes. You feel the warmth fading slightly as the angle shifts, reminding you that this comfort is temporary. Everything here is temporary. Without fire, there is no way to hold on to warmth beyond what the environment offers. There is no way to store it, to carry it forward into the night. And yet life continues. You adjust your position once more, following the light, maintaining that delicate balance between warmth and cold. This is not a struggle in the dramatic sense. It is quieter than that. A constant negotiation with the environment, a steady awareness of small changes, a life shaped not by control but by adaptation. You take a slow breath, letting the air settle in your chest. The sun remains above you for now, and you move with it. You begin to notice how the light itself shapes everything around you. The sun has now risen fully, and with it comes a quiet sense of structure, not imposed by clocks or schedules, but by something older and far more consistent. Daylight becomes your guide. You move across the land with a steadier pace, now your body responding to the growing warmth. The chill of early morning lingers in the shadows, but wherever the sunlight touches, there is a gentle easing, a soft shift that makes movement feel easier. In a time before fire, before artificial light of any kind, the sun determined the rhythm of life almost completely. Early human activity rose and fell with its presence. When light filled the land, movement increased. When darkness returned, everything slowed. You walk along a stretch of open ground, noticing how your shadow follows beside you, stretching and shrinking as you move. It is a quiet reminder of the sun's position, something that would have been unconsciously observed over many generations. Some researchers suggest that early humans developed a strong internal sense of time based on these patterns. Without written calendars or measured hours, the shifting angle of light, the length of shadows, and the behavior of animals all helped mark the passage of the day. You pause for a moment, looking out across the landscape. There is no urgency here, but there is direction. you begin to understand that your time to move, to gather, to explore is limited. Not by rules, but by light itself. When the sun is high, visibility is clear. When it begins to fall, the world will slowly return to uncertainty. And you might wonder how much could be done in a single day like this. Early human groups likely organised their activities carefully, even if not consciously in the way we think of planning today. Food gathering movement between locations and social interaction would all need to happen within the safe window of daylight. You continue forward, stepping over uneven ground, feeling the texture of the earth shift beneath your feet. Small patches of grass give way to firmer soil, then to scattered stones that warm under the sun. You reach down and touch one of these stones again, noticing how much warmer it has become since earlier. It holds the heat quietly, without flame, without movement. This simple detail hints at something deeper. Long before humans learned to create fire, they were already living in a world where heat existed naturally, moving through surfaces, changing slowly over time. Observing this may have planted early ideas, though it would take countless generations before those ideas turned into action. You straighten and continue walking. The air feels different now, slightly warmer but also more active. A light breeze moves across the land, carrying faint scents with it. Dry grass, damp earth. Something distant, difficult to identify but present. Your senses remain engaged, not out of tension but out of habit. There is a steady rhythm to this awareness. Some scientists propose that early humans relied on a kind of continuous environmental scanning, where attention shifted gently between sight, sound, and smell. This was not a constant state of alarm, but a balanced awareness that allowed for both movement and safety. You pass through a small cluster of low trees, their branches casting thin shadows across the ground. The light filters through in uneven patterns, creating a soft contrast between brightness and shade. You step into the shade briefly. The temperature drops almost immediately. It is a subtle change, but noticeable enough to influence your movement. You do not linger here long. Instead, you step back into the sunlight where the warmth feels more comfortable. This constant adjustment becomes part of your day, moving toward warmth, stepping away from cold, finding balance without fully controlling it. A lesser-known observation among researchers is that early humans may have preferred open environments during cooler periods, precisely because they allowed for greater exposure to sunlight. Forested areas, while offering shelter, could also retain cold air and reduce available warmth. You continue forward, your pace unhurried. There is time, but it is not endless. The sun has reached a higher point now, and with it comes the most stable part of the day. This is when your body feels most at ease. Not too cold, not too hot. Just enough warmth to move freely. You notice your breathing again, steady and even. Your muscles feel more responsive now, less stiff than they were at dawn. This period of the day likely held the greatest opportunity for early humans. Movement was easier. Visibility was clear. Energy could be used more efficiently. You scan the ground ahead, noticing small variations in the terrain. A slight dip, a change in colour, a cluster of plants growing closer together. These details matter. You move toward the plants, kneeling slightly to observe them. Their leaves are different from those you saw earlier, narrower, lighter in colour. You touch one carefully, feeling its texture between your fingers. This is part of a larger pattern. Over time, early humans built a quiet knowledge of the land, not through written records, but through repeated experience, knowing which plants could be eaten, which areas held water, which paths were safer. Researchers continue to question how this knowledge was shared. Some suggest it was passed through observation within small groups. Others believe that imitation and simple forms of teaching played a role. You sit back on your heels, taking a moment to rest. The sun remains steady above you, its light consistent, reliable for now. You look up briefly, shielding your eyes slightly. There is no sense of ownership over time here, only participation in it. You stand again, continuing your path across the land. The shadows have shortened now, pulling closer beneath you. The light feels more direct, more present. This is the centre of your day, a moment of balance. And as you move forward, you begin to understand something quietly important. Without fire, without artificial light, without the ability to extend the day, life is shaped by limits that feel both restrictive and grounding. There is a beginning, there is an end, and everything in between carries a steady natural rhythm. You take a slow breath, feeling the warmth of the sun once more, and you continue guided by the light. You begin to feel a quiet sense of purpose as the day settles into its most active phase. The light is steady, the air more forgiving, and your body moves with a little more ease than it did earlier. This is the time to search, to gather, to find what you need before the light fades again. Food is never guaranteed here. You move slowly across the landscape, scanning the ground and the low vegetation around you. There are no fields, no planted rows, no stored supplies waiting nearby. Everything must be found in the moment, shaped by what the land offers and what you are able to recognize. Before the use of fire, all food is eaten raw. This is a widely accepted understanding among anthropologists. Early humans relied on fruits' roots, leaves, insects, and occasionally meat from hunted or scavenged animals. Without cooking, food remained in its natural state, often tougher, less digestible, and sometimes unpredictable. You kneel near a cluster of low plants, their leaves spread wide across the soil. You reach out carefully, touching one then another. The texture is slightly rough, the edges uneven. You pause. This moment carries weight. Choosing what to eat is not simple. Some plants provide nourishment, others may cause harm. Over time, early humans developed a working knowledge of their environment, but that knowledge was built slowly, shaped by repeated experience and careful observation. Some researchers propose that trial and error played a significant role in this process. Others suggest that watching animals helped guide decisions. If certain creatures ate a plant without harm, it might be considered safer to try. You bring a small portion closer, examining it more carefully. There is a faint scent, earthy, slightly bitter. You taste it slowly. The flavor is immediately sharper than what you might be used to. There is no softening, no transformation. The plant remains exactly as it was when you picked it. And you begin to notice something else. Eating like this requires effort. Raw plants can be fibrous, resistant, demanding more from your teeth and jaw. Early human skulls and teeth show signs of this constant use. Strong jaws, worn surfaces, evidence of repeated chewing over long periods. You continue slowly, taking only what feels manageable. A lesser-known detail is that before cooking became common, early humans likely spent a significant portion of their day simply chewing. Food that would take minutes to eat today might have required much longer in its raw form. You stand again, moving forward. The land changes slightly as you walk. The ground becomes softer, more uneven, and patches of taller grass begin to appear. These areas often hold different kinds of food hidden beneath the surface or growing low and close to the soil. You crouch again, using your hands to move aside the grass. Beneath it you find roots. You dig gently, loosening the soil with your fingers. The root comes free, slowly coated in dirt. You brush it off as best you can, revealing its pale surface. Roots were an important part of early human diets. They provided energy, though they were often tough and sometimes difficult to digest without cooking. Some scientists suggest that the eventual discovery of fire greatly increased the nutritional value of these foods, but for now you rely on them as they are. You take a bite. The texture is firm, slightly dry. The taste is mild, but not unpleasant. It fills a need. You continue gathering a few more, carrying them with you as you move. There is no concept of excess here. You take what you can carry, what you can eat within a short time. Without storage methods, without containers or preservation, food is always temporary. You walk further, your eyes scanning not just the ground, but the space ahead. Movement catches your attention. A small animal, quick and low to the ground, moves through the grass before disappearing again. You stop. Your body becomes still, your breathing quieter. Hunting, even in its simplest form, requires patience. Early humans did not have advanced tools or weapons at this stage. Some may have used sharpened sticks or stones, but success depended as much on timing and positioning as on the tools themselves. Some researchers believe that early humans were more often scavengers than hunters, during this period taking advantage of remains left by larger predators. Others argue that basic hunting techniques developed earlier than once thought, though likely with limited success. You take a slow step forward, then another. The grass shifts slightly. You wait, nothing. The moment passes. You do not pursue further. Energy must be used carefully. A failed attempt can cost more than it gains. You continue walking. The sun remains steady above you, but you are aware that it will not stay there forever. Time moves quietly, marked not by sound, but by light. You reach the edge of a more open area where the ground is scattered with small stones and patches of bare earth. Here you notice something different. Remains. Bones partially cleaned lying in the open. You approach slowly. This is the result of a recent hunt, though not by you. Larger predators have already taken what they need, leaving behind what they could not consume. Scavenging becomes an opportunity. Early humans often relied on these moments, taking advantage of what remained. It was not ideal, but it provided access to nutrients that were otherwise difficult to obtain. You examine the bones. There may still be small amounts of tissue left difficult to reach, but possible. Some scientists suggest that early humans used simple stone tools to scrape meat from bones even before the use of fire. This practice allowed them to access valuable calories, supporting survival in environments where food was not always abundant. You pick up a small stone, testing its edge. It is not sharp in the refined sense, but it is enough. You begin carefully working slowly. This is not a comfortable process, but it is necessary. You focus on the task, your movements deliberate. Around you the world continues its quiet rhythm. The wind moves lightly. Distant sounds come and go. The sun remains steady for now. You take a moment to pause, looking out across the land once more. Food is never simple here. It requires awareness, patience, effort. It is shaped by the land, by chance, by knowledge built slowly over time. You take a slow breath, feeling the weight of the day settle gently around you. And then you continue. You begin to notice how every bite carries more than just nourishment. It carries texture, resistance, even a quiet challenge. As you move slowly across the land, still aware of the food you've gathered, your attention turns inward for a moment toward the act of eating itself. Without cooking, nothing is softened. You lift another piece of root to your mouth, biting into it with steady pressure. The fibers resist at first, then give way gradually. Your jaw works in a slow rhythm, repeating the motion again and again, until the food becomes manageable enough to swallow. This process takes time, far longer than it would in a world shaped by fire and heat. Anthropologists widely recognize that early human diets required significantly more chewing than modern ones. Fossil evidence shows strong jaw muscles and worn teeth, suggesting that raw food placed constant demands on the body. You continue chewing, aware of the effort but also accustomed to it. This is not unusual here. It is simply part of life. You swallow, then take a moment before reaching for more. There is no rushing this process. Eating too quickly would not make sense. The body sets its own pace, shaped by the nature of the food itself. And as you sit quietly, you begin to notice something else. The taste. It is subtle but distinct. Without cooking, flavors remain unchanged, direct and unaltered. There is no blending, no layering, no transformation through heat. Each plant, each piece of food carries its own clear identity. Some are bitter, some slightly sweet, others neutral, almost without taste at all. A small but interesting observation from researchers is that early humans may have developed a heightened sensitivity to these natural flavors. Without seasoning or preparation, the ability to detect subtle differences could have helped identify safe and nutritious food. You bring a small piece of leaf to your mouth, tasting it carefully. There is a slight sharpness followed by a lingering dryness. You pause. This kind of awareness matters. Choosing what to eat is not just about hunger. It is about recognizing signals. Flavor, texture, scent all provide clues. Over time, these clues form a quiet language guiding your decisions without the need for words. You set the leaf aside, deciding not to take more. You rise slowly, brushing your hands against your legs to remove the remaining dirt. The ground beneath you feels warmer now, holding the heat of the midday sun. It provides a gentle contrast to the cool air that still moves across your skin. You begin walking again, your steps steady. As you move, you notice how your body feels after eating, not full in the way you might expect, but sustained. The food does not provide an immediate sense of satisfaction. Instead, it offers a gradual, steady energy. Some scientists propose that raw diets required early humans to eat more frequently throughout the day, because food was harder to digest and less calorie-dense without cooking energy, had to be replenished often. You pass by another cluster of plants different from those you saw earlier. Their leaves are smaller, more delicate. You crouch beside them, examining their shape. There is a faint scent when you crush one lightly between your fingers. You hesitate. This moment reflects something deeper than simple choice. It reflects caution. Researchers continue to explore how early humans identified harmful plants. Some suggest that bitterness often served as a warning sign. Others believe that repeated exposure combined with observation of animal behavior helped build a basic understanding over time. You bring the crushed leaf closer but stop short of tasting it. Instead, you let the scent linger for a moment, then release it. You move on. Not every discovery needs to be immediate. You continue walking your senses, adjusting again to the broader environment. The sounds of the day have settled into a gentle rhythm. Insects move through the grass. Birds call from a distance. The wind shifts slightly, carrying new scents across the land. You pause, noticing one in particular, a faint trace of something stronger. Not unpleasant, but distinct. You follow it slowly, your steps careful. The scent leads you toward a shaded area where the ground dips slightly. As you approach, you see what has drawn your attention. Fruit, small, scattered across the ground and hanging from low branches. Some are intact. Others have already fallen, their surfaces marked by time or the touch of animals. You kneel beside them. Fruit offers something different. A natural sweetness, a softness that requires less effort to eat. You pick one up, examining its surface. It is not perfect, but it appears safe enough. You take a bite. The difference is immediate. Juice, mild sweetness, a texture that yields easily under your teeth. This is a rare moment of ease in your diet. A lesser-known detail is that fruit likely played an important role in early human nutrition, not just for energy, but for hydration as well. In environments where water sources were not always nearby, the moisture within fruit could provide an additional benefit. You eat slowly, savouring the contrast. The effort is less, the process smoother. You gather a few more, holding them carefully as you sit for a moment longer. This is not abundance in the modern sense, but it is enough. You look around, noticing the signs that others have been here. Partially eaten fruit, disturbed ground, subtle marks that suggest movement. You are not the only one who knows this place. You remain aware but not alarmed. This shared use of resources is part of the natural rhythm. Early humans often moved through landscapes that were also used by many other species, each following its own patterns. You finish what you have gathered, leaving nothing behind that you can carry. Again, there is no storage, no saving for later. Everything happens within the present moment. You stand, feeling the warmth of the sun begin to soften slightly as it moves across the sky. The peak of the day is passing slowly and quietly. You take a slow breath, noticing the lingering taste of fruit, the steady energy within your body. Eating here is not about comfort. It is about balance. Effort and reward, caution and curiosity, hunger and awareness. You begin walking again, leaving the shaded area behind, stepping once more into the open light. The land stretches ahead unchanged, yet always shifting in small ways, and you continue guided by the quiet signals of the world around you. You begin to sense how important water is long before you feel true thirst. It is not just something you seek when needed. It is something that quietly shapes your movement, your decisions, even the paths you choose without fully realizing it. The stream you followed earlier has curved away, slipping behind a rise in the land. Now as you continue walking, you notice the ground becoming drier, the air slightly less cool, the vegetation thinner. These small changes matter. You slow your pace, scanning the landscape more carefully. Water is not always visible. Sometimes it must be found through signs. Evidence suggests that early humans became skilled at reading these subtle indicators. The presence of certain plants, the behavior of animals, even the texture of the soil could suggest that water was nearby, hidden just out of sight. You step across a stretch of firmer ground, noticing how the earth has hardened under the sun. Your feet feel the difference immediately. Less give, less moisture. You pause. The air feels quieter here. Not silent, but lacking the gentle movement that often accompanies water. No steady flow, no soft trickle, no faint reflection catching the light. You turn slightly, adjusting your direction. This is not guesswork. It is a response to absence. Some animals move across the horizon in the distance, their path angled slightly toward a lower part of the land. You watch them for a moment, noticing their steady pace, their quiet determination. A detail often overlooked is how much early humans may have relied on observing animal behavior to locate water. Animals tend to follow reliable routes, especially in environments where resources are scattered. Following at a distance without disturbing them could lead to important discoveries. You begin to move in the same general direction, not directly toward them, but along a similar path. The land shifts again as you walk. The ground becomes softer, almost imperceptibly at first. The colour darkens slightly. Small patches of green appear where before there was only dry grass. You feel the change underfoot. A faint coolness returns to the air. You continue forward, your steps a little more certain now. Water is near. As you move over a gentle slope, the sound reaches you. Soft at first, then clearer. A slow, steady flow. You step down into a shallow basin where a narrow stream winds its way through the earth. It is smaller than the one you saw before, but it is enough. You kneel beside it, lowering your hands once more into the water. The sensation is familiar now. Cool, immediate, grounding. You drink slowly, letting the water settle naturally. Without containers, without the ability to carry water for long distances, early humans often had to remain within reach of reliable sources. This shaped movement patterns, encouraging a gradual flowing way of life, rather than fixed settlement. You sit back slightly, listening to the stream. It carries more than water. It carries sound. A constant, gentle presence that softens the edges of the surrounding world. In a landscape where silence can feel vast, this quiet movement brings a sense of stability. You look along its path, noticing how the land gathers around it. Plants grow thicker here, the soil is darker, insects move lightly across the surface. Life concentrates in these places drawn by the same need that brought you here. This creates both opportunity and risk. Where there is water, there is life. And where there is life, there is also competition. You glance toward the edge of the basin where the ground slopes upward again. There are faint marks there, tracks partially pressed into the softer soil. You lean closer, observing their shape. Not fresh, but not old either. This place is used, not just by you. A quiet understanding settles in. You are part of a larger pattern. Early humans likely returned to the same water sources repeatedly, learning their locations and remembering their paths. These places became familiar points in a wider landscape guiding movement over time. Some researchers suggest that this repeated return to key locations may have contributed to early forms of spatial memory, strengthening the ability to navigate large areas without permanent markers. You rise slowly, stepping back from the edge of the stream. You do not linger too long. Staying in one place, especially near water, carries its own risks. Other animals may approach. Larger predators may pass through. You take a moment to observe the surroundings once more, then begin to move along the edge of the basin, following the stream at a slight distance. This allows you to remain near water without staying directly exposed. The ground here is uneven, shaped by the movement of water over time. Small dips and rises create a gentle rhythm beneath your feet. You notice how your body adjusts automatically. Stepping carefully, shifting weight, maintaining balance. There is a quiet coordination in your movement, now shaped by experience rather than instruction. As you continue, the stream narrows its flow, becoming softer, more subtle. Eventually it begins to disappear beneath the earth, leaving behind only damp soil and scattered plant growth. You pause, watching the last visible trace of water fade. It does not feel like a loss, more like a transition. Water moves, it shifts, it appears and disappears, and you move with it. You turn slightly, looking out across the wider landscape once again. The sun has begun its gradual descent, though the change is still gentle. The light softens just enough to hint at what will come later. You take a slow breath, feeling the moisture in the air, the lingering coolness near the ground. Water has given you what you need for now, and as you step away from the basin, continuing your quiet journey, you carry with you a deeper understanding. That survival here is not about control. It is about attention, about noticing the smallest changes, about following the faintest signs. You move forward once more, guided not by certainty but by awareness, and the land in its quiet way continues to guide you. You begin to feel the slow shift of the day as the light softens just slightly, almost too gently to notice at first. The warmth that carried you through the middle hours is still present, but it no longer grows. Instead, it lingers, as if holding its place for a little while longer before fading. You walk across a stretch of uneven ground, your attention turning towards something deeper than food or water. Shelter. Not in the sense of a built structure, but a place to rest. A place to pause when the light disappears again. Without fire, shelter is not about comfort. It is about protection. You move toward a low rise in the land where scattered stones begin to cluster more closely together. The formation feels natural, shaped over time by wind and shifting earth. As you approach, you notice a shallow opening between two larger rocks. You slow your steps. This could be enough. Early humans often relied on natural formations like caves, rock overhangs, or dense vegetation for shelter. These spaces offered a degree of protection from wind rain, and sometimes from animals, though never completely. You step closer, lowering your body slightly as you look inside. The space is not deep. It does not extend far into the earth, but it creates a boundary, a subtle separation between the open land and a more enclosed environment. You reach out, touching the inner surface of the rock. It feels cooler than the outside, holding the memory of shade rather than sunlight. You step inside. The air changes. It is still quieter, almost held in place. The sounds of the outside world become softer, more distant. The wind no longer moves directly across your skin. This kind of space matters. A detail sometimes overlooked is that even shallow shelters like this could make a meaningful difference. Reducing exposure to wind alone could help conserve body heat, especially as the temperature begins to drop later in the day. You sit down slowly, adjusting your position on the uneven ground. There is no softness here, no prepared surface, only stone and earth. You shift slightly, finding a position that feels more stable. It is not comfortable in the modern sense, but it is manageable. You look toward the opening, where the light still reaches inside, though less directly now. The edges of the space are dimmer, the contrast between light and shadow more pronounced. Without fire, there will be no light here once the sun sets. This is something you already understand. And you might find yourself wondering, how did early humans choose where to stay? Research indicates that location was everything. Proximity to water, access to food, and visibility of the surrounding area all played a role. A good shelter was not just a place to rest, but a place that allowed awareness of what was happening nearby. You lean slightly forward, looking out from the opening. From here you can see the land stretching outward, the gentle slope, the scattered plants, the distant movement of animals. This position offers a small advantage. You are not fully exposed, but you are not hidden either. It is a balance. You remain still for a moment, letting your body settle. The ground beneath you is firm, uneven, in places pressing against your legs and back. Over time, early humans likely became accustomed to this kind of rest. The body adapts, finding ways to ease into positions that require less effort to maintain. Some researchers suggest that sleep patterns were lighter and more fragmented in this period. Without the deep comfort of enclosed shelters or controlled warmth, rest would have been shaped by the need to remain partially alert. You shift again, adjusting your position slightly. Outside, the light continues to change. It is not yet evening, but the transition has begun. You notice how the shadows stretch a little farther now, how the colours of the land soften, losing some of their earlier clarity. You step back out of the shelter, turning to observe the area around it more carefully. There are small signs here. Disturbed soil, a faint mark along the rock surface. Nothing clear, but enough to suggest that this place has been used before. You're not the first to find it. This is another quiet truth of this world. Useful spaces are shared. Animals and likely other human groups may pass through using the same shelters, the same water sources, the same paths. You remain aware of this, but not alarmed. It is simply part of the environment. You move a short distance away, gathering a few small branches and leaves. Not to build anything complex, but to create a slightly more stable surface inside the shelter. You bring them back, placing them where you sat before. This is a small act, but it reflects something important. The beginning of shaping the environment. Early humans didn't simply exist within nature. They made small adjustments, subtle changes that improved their situation, even without tools or advanced methods. You sit again, this time on the thin layer you have created. The difference is slight but noticeable. Less direct contact with the cold ground, a small buffer. A quieter detail of early human life is that even minimal modifications like this could have made a difference over time. Comfort was not a goal in itself, but reducing strain even slightly could help conserve energy. You look out once more, taking in the wider view. The sun continues its slow descent. The warmth begins to fade almost imperceptibly at first. You feel it in the air, in the ground, in the way your body responds. The shelter behind you will soon become more important. You step back inside, letting the shadow take you in again. The space feels different now. More enclosed, more still. You sit, drawing your body slightly inward. There is no fire to gather around. No light to push back the darkness that will come. Only this space, this small natural shelter, and your awareness within it. You take a slow breath, listening as the sounds outside begin to shift once more. The day is moving toward its end, and you prepare to meet the night again as you have before. You begin to notice the quiet change as the light fades further, slipping gently across the land until it no longer reaches into the shelter behind you. The warmth of the day withdraws slowly, leaving behind a cooler stillness that settles into the air. You step fully inside the shallow shelter once more. The difference is immediate. Outside, the last light lingers faintly. Inside, shadows gather more quickly, filling the space with a soft darkness that deepens with each passing moment. Without fire, there is no way to slow this transition. Night arrives completely. You lower yourself to the ground, adjusting your position carefully. The thin layer of leaves and branches you placed earlier offers only the slightest change, but it is enough to soften the direct contact with the earth. You draw your arms closer to your body, conserving warmth without thinking about it. This is instinct now. Early humans lived with this rhythm every day. As the sun disappeared, activity reduced almost entirely. Darkness was not something to push against. It was something to accept. You look toward the opening of the shelter. The sky beyond it shifts from pale grey to deep blue, then slowly toward black. The first stars begin to appear again, faint at first, then clearer as the light fades completely. There is a quiet familiarity in this. You have seen it before, and yet each night feels slightly different. You listen. The sounds return, soft movements in the distance, a faint rustle of grass, the low call of an animal somewhere beyond your sight. These sounds do not feel separate from the night. They feel like part of it, woven into the same steady presence. You remain still. Sleeping here is not the same as sleep in the modern world. It is lighter, more aware, more connected to the environment around you. Research suggests that early humans may not have slept in long uninterrupted periods. Instead, rest could have come in shorter phases with brief awakenings in between. This pattern would allow continued awareness of surroundings, especially in environments where danger could appear without warning. You shift slightly, finding a position that requires less effort to maintain. The ground is firm beneath you, uneven in places. You adjust your weight carefully, allowing your body to settle without fully relaxing. Your breathing slows. Your eyes close briefly, then open again. This is not rest as complete escape. It is rest within awareness. A quieter observation from sleep researchers is that human sleep patterns may have evolved over time influenced by environmental conditions. Before artificial light night was longer, and sleep may have been more flexible, shaped by natural cycles rather than fixed schedules. You glance once more toward the opening. The darkness outside has deepened fully now. The stars are brighter, more numerous. The land itself is no longer clearly visible, only suggested by faint outlines and shifting shadows. You listen again. There is movement closer now. Not sudden, not alarming, but present. Your body responds gently. A slight tightening in your chest. A subtle alertness that moves through you without breaking the calm completely. This is part of the night. Early humans lived alongside animals that were more active after sunset. Without fire to create a barrier of light and heat, they relied on stillness, quiet awareness, and the ability to remain unnoticed when needed. You remain motionless. The sound passes. A few moments later it fades. You allow your body to soften again, though not completely. This balance continues throughout the night. Rest, awareness, stillness, listening. You close your eyes once more. Time moves differently here. There are no clear markers, no measured intervals. Only the gradual movement of the sky, the shifting temperature, the subtle changes in sound. At some point you drift into a deeper rest. Not fully asleep, but closer to it. Your breathing steadies. Your muscles release some of their tension. The ground supports you firm and constant. The air cools further. You feel it along your arms, your face, the small exposed areas of your body. Without fire, there is no relief from this cooling. Only adaptation. Some researchers suggest that early humans may have slept closer together in small groups sharing body heat as a natural way to stay warm. This behavior is seen in many social animals and would have provided both warmth and a sense of safety. Here alone in this moment, you draw your body inward slightly more. It is enough. The night continues. At some point, your eyes open again. You do not know how much time has passed. The stars have shifted slightly. The sounds have changed. This brief waking is not surprising. It feels natural. You listen again, your senses returning to the surface. Everything feels calm. You close your eyes once more. This pattern may repeat several times through the night. Short periods of rest followed by quiet awareness. A rhythm shaped not by comfort but by necessity. And yet there is a kind of calm within it. No urgency, no pressure, only the steady passage of time. As the night deepens, the temperature reaches its lowest point. The air feels sharper now, more present against your skin. You adjust again, shifting slightly, maintaining what warmth you can. Your breathing remains slow. Your body conserves energy. Eventually, without any clear signal, the night begins to change. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but subtly. The darkness softens just slightly. The air shifts. The sounds become less frequent. And somewhere beyond your awareness, the first hint of morning begins to return. You remain still resting within this quiet transition. The night is ending, and you have passed through it once more. You begin to sense it before you see anything at all. A shift. Not in the light, not in the ground beneath you, but in the feeling of the air itself. It carries something quieter, heavier, as if the space around you has become more aware. You stand still, your body settling into a careful stillness. The day has returned, the light is present, yet something has changed. You listen. There is a pause in the usual rhythm. The smaller sounds seem to fade slightly. The distant movements feel less scattered, more cautious. This is how the presence of larger animals often reveals itself. Not through sudden noise, but through absence. You take a slow breath, your senses adjusting. In a world without fire, humans do not stand at the top of the food chain. Early humans shared their environment with predators that were stronger, faster, and far more adapted to both day and night conditions. Evidence from fossil records and archaeological sites suggests that early humans often lived alongside large carnivores such as big cats, hyenas, and other powerful hunters. These animals were not rare encounters. They were a constant part of the environment. You take a careful step forward, your movement slow and controlled. The ground feels different under your feet, though nothing has visibly changed. Your awareness sharpens, focusing not just on what you can see, but on what you cannot. You glance toward a cluster of rocks ahead. There, a faint movement. It is subtle, easy to miss, but once seen it cannot be ignored. You stop. Your body becomes still again. This is not panic. It is attention. A quiet detail that stands out is how early humans likely depended on stillness as a form of protection. Sudden movement could draw attention. Remaining calm and controlled could reduce the chance of being noticed. You lower yourself slightly, bringing your body closer to the ground. The grass brushes gently against your hands. You listen again. The movement is still there, though distant. Not approaching, but not leaving either. You do not need to see clearly to understand. Something larger is nearby. Interpretations vary regarding how early humans managed these encounters. Some researchers believe that avoidance was the primary strategy, using awareness and distance to stay safe. Others suggest that early humans may have used group presence to discourage predators, though without fire this would have been limited. You remain where you're allowing time to pass. The air shifts again. A faint sound reaches you, a low movement followed by silence. Then nothing. The presence fades. Not gone, but no longer immediate. You take a slow breath, feeling your body release a small amount of tension. Encounters like this would not have been rare. They would have been part of daily life. You rise carefully, continuing your movement, but with a heightened awareness that remains just beneath the surface. This is the balance. To move but not rush. To observe but not fixate. To remain aware without becoming overwhelmed. You walk along a slightly elevated path where the ground offers a clearer view of the surrounding area. From here you can see farther, though details remain soft and distant. This position provides an advantage. Visibility. Something often emphasized in research is that early humans may have preferred landscapes that allowed wide lines of sight. Open environments made it easier to detect movement from a distance, reducing the chance of sudden encounters. You pause, scanning slowly from one side to the other. Nothing immediate. Only the quiet movement of smaller animals returning to their routines. You continue walking. Your steps remain steady, but your senses do not fully relax. They remain engaged, gently alert. As you move, you notice the faint outline of tracks along the ground. Larger than those you saw before, deeper, more defined. You crouch beside them, examining their shape. The marks press firmly into the soil, suggesting weight. You trace one lightly with your fingers, feeling the edges. These tracks are not fresh, but they are recent enough to matter. One small detail that stands out is how early humans likely learned to read these signs with remarkable precision. The depth, direction, and spacing of tracks could reveal not just what animal had passed, but how quickly it was moving and how long ago. You stand again, stepping away from the tracks. There is no need to follow them. Not today. You choose a different direction, adjusting your path slightly to avoid the area. This decision is quiet but important. Avoidance becomes a form of strategy, a way of navigating the world without confrontation. Experts continue to explore how these patterns of movement influenced early human survival. By learning where predators traveled and when they were most active, early humans could reduce risk without direct conflict. You walk on. The sun continues its slow journey across the sky, its light steady but beginning to soften again. The day is moving forward, and with it the constant presence of awareness. You pass through a stretch of land where the grass grows lower, offering fewer places for animals to hide. The openness feels different, safer in some ways, more exposed in others. You adjust your pace slightly, maintaining a rhythm that allows you to observe without rushing. There is no need for haste, only steady movement. You take a slow breath, feeling the air fill your chest. The tension from earlier has faded, but not completely. It lingers quietly, a reminder of what shares this world with you. And you begin to understand something more clearly now. That survival here is not about dominance. It is about coexistence. About moving through the same space as other creatures, each following their own needs, their own patterns. You continue forward, guided by this quiet understanding. The land stretches ahead. The light remains for now, and you move within it, aware, attentive, and calm. You begin to notice how quiet your world is not because nothing is happening, but because so much of it happens without words. As you move across the open ground, your attention shifts from the larger patterns of light and land to something more subtle: connection. Not through language as you know it, but through presence. You slow your steps as you approach a familiar space, a place where others might gather. There are no clear markers, no constructed boundaries, yet there are signs. Slight disturbances in the ground, a faint pattern of movement, the quiet sense that this place has been shared before. You pause, then you notice them. Figures in the distance moving slowly, their shapes blending into the landscape until your eyes adjust. They do not call out, they do not announce themselves, and yet there is recognition. You step forward carefully. Your movement is visible now, but not threatening. This is how communication begins here, not with words, but with awareness. Current research points to the idea that early humans communicated using gestures, facial expressions, and simple vocal sounds long before structured language developed. These forms of communication were enough to share basic information, to signal safety, to express emotion. You raise your hand slightly. Not a wave, not a defined gesture, but a movement that can be seen. The others respond. A shift in posture, a brief pause, then a continuation of movement that suggests acceptance rather than alarm. You move closer. The space between you closes gradually without urgency. There is no conversation, at least not in the way you would recognize. But there is exchange. A glance, a slight tilt of the head, a shared awareness of presence. You sit among them, not directly beside anyone, but within the group. This distance matters. It respects space while allowing connection. A quieter detail often overlooked is how much information can be communicated without words. Even today, small changes in body language can convey meaning instantly. For early humans, this would have been the primary form of interaction. You notice how one individual shifts slightly, turning their body toward a patch of ground nearby. Your eyes follow. There a cluster of edible plants grows. No words are spoken, yet the meaning is clear. This is a shared understanding. Evidence suggests that early humans relied on this kind of observational learning. Watching others, noticing where they moved, what they gathered, how they reacted, all of this formed a kind of silent communication network. You reach toward the plants, gathering a small amount. There is no conflict, no claim of ownership. Resources are limited, but the group moves with a quiet balance, taking what is needed without excess. You sit again, eating slowly, aware of the others around you. The presence of the group changes something. Not the environment itself, but your experience of it. There is a subtle easing of tension, a sense that awareness is shared. One individual watches the distance while another gathers food. Someone else remains still listening. This distribution of attention is not planned, but it happens naturally. Experts continue to explore how early human groups organize themselves. Some believe that even without formal roles, individuals may have taken on different forms of awareness based on experience or instinct. You glance toward the edge of the group. A soft sound escapes someone nearby. Not a word, but a vocalization. Low, brief. It draws attention. You turn your head slightly. The sound is repeated, accompanied by a small gesture. It points toward a direction. Movement. The group responds. Not all at once, not suddenly, but gradually. Eyes shift, bodies adjust, attention moves as one. This is communication in its earliest form, simple but effective. There is no need for complex language when the message is clear. You rise slowly, following the subtle shift in the group's movement. They begin to walk not in a tight formation, but in a loose pattern that allows space while maintaining connection. You follow. Your steps align with theirs, your pace adjusting without thought. This shared movement creates a rhythm, a quiet coordination that emerges naturally. Something rarely mentioned is how early humans may have relied on this kind of group movement to increase safety. More eyes, more awareness, more chances to notice danger before it becomes immediate. You walk alongside them, not leading, not following too closely, simply part of the group. The land continues to stretch around you, unchanged in its form yet different in feeling. You are no longer alone within it. You notice how individuals communicate small signals as they move. A pause, a glance, a slight shift in direction. Each action carries meaning. Each movement contributes to the whole. There is no spoken plan, yet the group moves with purpose. Interpretations differ on how structured these interactions were. Some researchers suggest that early communication remained simple for long periods, while others propose that increasingly complex sounds and gestures began to emerge over time. You continue walking, your senses aligned not just with the environment but with those around you. This shared awareness creates a kind of quiet stability. You're still alert to the land, to the sounds, to the movement of animals. But now that awareness is multiplied, distributed across the group, you take a slow breath, feeling the rhythm of movement, the steady pace, the subtle exchange of signals, and you begin to understand something gently, almost without realizing it, that even before language, before structured communication, before words could carry meaning, humans were already connected through presence, through observation, through the quiet understanding of being together. You continue forward with a group moving through the landscape as one guided by signals that require no explanation, and the world in its quiet way continues to respond. You continue moving with the group, your pace settling into a quiet rhythm that feels steady and natural. There is no clear leader, no one directing the path, yet the direction holds. It shifts gently when needed, guided by shared awareness rather than command. You begin to notice how the distance between each person remains consistent. Not too close, not too far. This spacing allows movement without interference while still keeping everyone within sight. It is a subtle balance, one that seems to form without effort. As you walk, you become more aware of the individuals around you. Their movements are calm, deliberate. Their attention moves between the ground, the horizon, and each other. No one seems distracted. No one is entirely still either. There is always a quiet motion, a constant adjustment to the environment. Evidence from studies of early human behavior suggests that small group living was essential for survival. Groups likely consisted of only a few individuals, perhaps a handful, moving together through the landscape. Larger gatherings may have occurred at times, but daily life often unfolded within these smaller units. You glance to your side. One individual slows, slightly crouching to examine something on the ground. The rest of the group does not stop entirely, but their pace softens. The distance narrows just enough to maintain connection. You pause as well, watching. The person reaches down, brushing aside a thin layer of soil. Beneath it, something small is revealed. Insects. They move quickly, disturbed by the sudden exposure. The individual gathers a few with careful movements, placing them into their hand. You watch as they bring them to their mouth. This is another source of food. A small detail that often goes unnoticed is how important insects likely were in early human diets. They are rich in nutrients, relatively easy to gather and available in many environments. You consider this for a moment. Then you move on with the group. The land continues to change gradually as you walk. The ground rises slightly, offering a broader view of the surroundings. From here you can see farther, the horizon stretching out in soft lines. This visibility brings a quiet sense of reassurance. You notice how the group naturally adjusts to this space. They spread slightly wider, each person covering a different angle of view. This increases awareness without requiring any spoken coordination. It simply happens. Researchers continue to explore how early human groups maintain this kind of shared awareness. Some suggest that it developed through repeated experience, each individual learning to respond to subtle cues from others. You continue walking, your steps aligned with the gentle rhythm of the group. There is a sense of continuity here. Not just movement, but connection. You begin to notice how individuals interact in small ways. A glance held for a moment longer than usual. A slight shift to allow another to pass. A shared pause when something draws attention. These interactions are quiet, but they matter. They build something. Trust. You may not think of it in those terms, but it is present. The group moves together not just because it is safer, but because it works. There is strength in shared awareness. Strength in proximity. You pass through a narrow stretch of land where the ground dips slightly, creating a natural path between two low rises. The group moves through it in a loose line, adjusting their positions without hesitation. You follow. The air feels different here, slightly cooler, more contained. The sound of your steps becomes softer, absorbed by the ground. You notice how the group becomes quieter as well, not by choice but by instinct. Narrow spaces reduce visibility. They require a different kind of attention, a quieter one. You move carefully, your senses focused ahead and behind. Then, as the path opens again, the group relaxes slightly. The spacing returns. The rhythm resumes. This constant adjustment reflects a deeper pattern. Early human life was shaped by flexibility. There were no fixed routines, no rigid structures, only responses to land, to weather, to each other. You step into a more open area where the sunlight reaches more fully once again. The warmth returns, though softer now, as the day begins its slow decline. You feel it on your skin, a gentle reminder that time is passing. You glance at the others. Their movements remain steady, unchanged. There is no visible concern about time, and yet there is an awareness of it. A quieter observation from researchers is that early humans may have developed a natural sense of timing based on environmental cues. The position of the sun, the length of shadows, the behavior of animals, all provided information without the need for measurement. You continue walking. The group slows slightly as they approach another patch of vegetation. Some begin to gather. Others remain standing watching. You join in, kneeling beside the plants. The act of gathering is familiar now. Slow, careful, observant. You take only what you need. The group remains balanced. No one takes too much. No one is left without. This shared approach to resources reflects something important. Cooperation. It may not be structured or defined, but it is present. Interpretations vary regarding how early human groups manage sharing. Some researchers suggest that cooperation was essential for survival, while others believe that competition may have also played a role in certain situations. Here in this moment the balance holds. You rise again, the small amount of food you gathered enough for now. The group begins to move once more, continuing their quiet journey across the land. You follow. The connection remains, unspoken but clear, and as you walk you begin to understand something more deeply. That survival here is not only about individual awareness. It is about being part of something larger, a shared presence, a collective rhythm. You take a slow breath, feeling the steady pace of movement, the quiet alignment with those around you, and together you continue forward. You continue walking with the group, your steps falling into a steady rhythm that feels almost effortless now. The land stretches out ahead, familiar in its patterns, yet always offering small variations that draw your attention. As you move, you begin to notice something carried by one of the individuals nearby, a stone. Not just any stone, but one that has been shaped. It rests in their hand with a kind of purpose, its edges slightly sharper than what you have seen scattered across the ground. It is not polished, not refined, but it is different. You slow slightly, watching. The individual pauses near a fallen branch, crouching down with careful intent. They place the branch against a larger rock, then bring the shaped stone down against it. A firm strike. The wood shifts. Another strike. The edge of the stone bites into the surface, removing small fragments. This is not random movement. It is deliberate. Archaeological evidence points to the fact that even before the use of fire, early humans created simple tools from stone. These tools were shaped through repeated striking, a process often referred to as flaking. The result was a sharper edge useful for cutting, scraping, and breaking. You step closer, observing. The sound of stone against wood is clear, steady, almost rhythmic. Each movement is controlled, guided by experience rather than instruction. You crouch slightly, picking up a stone of your own. It feels ordinary at first. Rough, uneven. You turn it in your hand, examining its edges. Then you look back at the individual. They strike again, this time against another stone. A small fragment breaks away. The new edge catches the light. Sharper now. You bring your stone toward another, imitating the movement. The first strike is uncertain. The sound is dull. Nothing changes. You adjust your grip. Try again. This time a small piece breaks off. The edge shifts slightly. You pause, feeling the difference with your fingers. It is subtle but real. What we know from early remains suggests that this kind of learning happened through observation and repetition. There were no instructions, no formal teaching. Skills were passed quietly, simply by watching and trying. You strike again. The motion becomes more controlled. A fragment falls away. The edge becomes more defined. You run your thumb along it carefully. It catches slightly. This is the beginning. You look up, noticing how others in the group carry similar stones. Some more shaped than others, some barely altered at all. Each reflects a different level of use, a different moment in time. Something easy to overlook is how significant these simple tools were. Even a slightly sharpened stone could make a difference in cutting plant material, scraping meat from bones, or shaping other objects. You rise slowly holding the stone. It feels heavier now, not in weight, but in purpose. You walk a short distance, scanning the ground. A fallen branch catches your attention. You crouch beside it, placing it against a rock as you saw before. You bring the stone down. The first strike glances off. You adjust. Try again. This time the edge meets the wood more directly. A small piece breaks away. You continue slowly, patiently. Each movement requires attention. Each strike teaches you something. The angle, the force, the position. There is no rush, only repetition. Early tool use marked a quiet turning point in human history. It did not transform life instantly, but it expanded what was possible. It allowed early humans to interact with their environment in new ways, shaping it even in small amounts. You pause, looking at what you have done. The branch is not fully shaped, but it has changed. You have changed it. This is different from simply finding. This is making. You sit back slightly, holding the stone in your hand. The edge has dulled a little with use. You strike it again against another rock, restoring its sharpness. This cycle continues. Use, adjust, use again. A subtle clue from archaeological sites is that early tools were often reused and reshaped multiple times. They were not permanent objects, but part of an ongoing process. You stand carrying the stone with you as you rejoin the group. The others continue moving their pace unchanged. Tools are part of life here, but they do not stop it. They move with you. You notice one individual using a similar stone to scrape at a bone. The movement is slow, careful. Small fragments come away. You watch as they gather what remains. This is another use, another purpose. Different interpretations exist about how early tool use spread among human groups. Some suggest it developed independently in different regions. Others believe that shared movement allowed techniques to pass between groups over time. You continue walking your hand, still holding the shaped stone. It feels natural now. Part of your movement. Part of your awareness. The land stretches ahead unchanged in its form, yet subtly different in your experience of it. You're no longer just moving through it. You are beginning to shape it, even in the smallest ways. You take a slow breath, feeling the weight of the stone, the texture of its surface, the edge you have created, and as you continue forward, you carry with you something new. Not just a tool, but a quiet understanding that even without fire, without advanced knowledge, without anything beyond what the land provides, you can change the world around you, one small action at a time. You continue walking with the stone still in your hand, its edge catching the light in a quiet, almost subtle way. It does not draw attention from the others. It does not need to. What matters is not how it looks, but what it allows you to do. As you move, your awareness shifts again, this time toward your own body. Your hands, they are constantly in use. Touching the ground, lifting objects, testing surfaces, shaping materials. There is a quiet intelligence in these movements, something that does not rely on words or explanation. You pause near a patch of uneven earth and crouch down, placing your hand flat against the ground. The surface is warm from the sun but textured. Small grains press into your skin. Tiny variations reveal themselves through touch alone. You lift your hand slowly, then press again, noticing the difference in pressure and contact. This sensitivity matters. Findings from studies of early human anatomy suggest that the development of dexterous hands played a major role in survival. The ability to grip, to manipulate, to feel small differences allowed early humans to interact with their environment in ways other animals could not. You pick up a small object from the ground, a fragment of stone. You turn it between your fingers, adjusting your grip slightly. Then again, each movement is small but precise. You begin to understand how much control is possible even without complex tools. You reach for the stone you shaped earlier and bring it toward a piece of bark lying nearby. You press the edge against the surface. Slowly, the bark resists at first, then gives slightly. A thin line forms where the edge moves across it. You repeat the motion. The line deepens. You adjust your grip again, finding a more stable position. This is not strength alone. It is coordination. A quieter detail in the archaeological record is that tool use did not depend only on the tools themselves, but on the hands that used them. The precision of movement, the ability to apply the right amount of force all played a role. You continue working with the bark for a moment, then stop. You run your fingers over the surface, feeling the difference you have made. It is small but clear. You look up, noticing another individual nearby. They're using both hands to hold a larger object steady while pressing a stone edge against it. Their movements are slow, controlled, consistent. You watch closely. There is a rhythm to it, a pattern. You shift your position slightly, trying to mirror the motion. Both hands working together now, one stabilizing, the other shaping. The coordination feels different, more balanced. You continue for a few moments, then pause. This is how learning happens here. Not through instruction, but through imitation, through observation, through repetition. Some lines of research indicate that this kind of hands-on learning was essential in early human development. Skills were not explained. They were seen, tried, adjusted, and gradually improved. You stand again, letting your hands rest at your sides. There is a slight tension in your fingers, a reminder of the effort you have used. You flex them gently. The sensation fades. Your hands are always working, always adjusting, always responding to the world around you. You begin walking again, your awareness still centered on these movements. As you step across the land, you notice how often your hands come into contact with the environment, brushing aside grass, testing the firmness of the ground, steadying yourself as you move across uneven surfaces. Each contact provides information, texture, temperature, stability. You reach out to a low branch, pushing it aside as you pass. The leaves brush lightly against your skin, cooler than the air, slightly damp. You pause, touching them again more deliberately this time. There is a softness here, different from the rough surfaces you have handled before. You hold the branch for a moment, then release it. Your hand lingers in the air briefly, as if remembering the sensation. This awareness extends beyond survival. It becomes something more, a way of understanding the world through direct contact. You continue forward, your steps steady. The group moves around you, each person engaged in their own quiet interactions with the environment. Some gather, some observe, some carry objects like the one in your hand. There is no single focus, only a shared presence. You notice one individual using their hands to dig into the soil, uncovering something beneath the surface. You move closer, watching. Their fingers work carefully, clearing away the dirt without damaging what lies below. A root. They lift it slowly, brushing it clean with controlled movements. You observe the process, then try it yourself nearby. You press your fingers into the soil. It yields slightly. You dig gently, feeling for resistance, for shape. There, you find something. You clear the soil around it, lifting it free. The motion feels familiar now, not because it was taught, but because it was seen. It is not entirely clear how quickly these skills developed in early humans. Some researchers believe that this kind of manual ability evolved gradually over long periods, while others suggest that even simple tool use may have accelerated learning. You stand again, holding the root. Your hands carry the marks of your activity now. Dirt beneath your nails, fine scratches along your skin. These are not signs of damage. They are signs of use. You brush your hands lightly against your legs, clearing some of the dirt. Then you look at them once more. They are simple, unchanged in appearance, and yet they allow you to do so much. You take a slow breath, feeling the quiet connection between your body and the world around you. The land stretches ahead unchanged, yet filled with possibility, and you move forward guided not just by sight or sound, but by touch. By the quiet intelligence of your hands, you continue moving with the group, your steps steady, your breathing calm. The land stretches outward in long, gentle lines shaped by forces far older than anything you can fully grasp. The ground beneath you feels familiar, yet never entirely the same from one moment to the next. As you walk, you begin to sense something shifting again. Not immediately visible, but present. The air feels slightly different. Drier. A faint change in scent. You pause for a moment, looking out across the landscape. The plants ahead appear thinner, more scattered. The ground shows more exposed soil, less dense growth. It is not a sudden change, but a gradual one. This is how the land transforms, slowly, over distance. You continue forward, following the subtle shift. Early humans did not remain in one place for long periods. What we know from archaeological evidence suggests that movement was constant, shaped by the availability of food, water, and shelter. When resources became limited, groups moved on. You step across a stretch of cracked earth, the surface harder than before. Your foot presses down, but the ground does not give as easily. You notice how the group responds. Their pace adjusts slightly, not faster, not slower, but more attentive. Awareness increases. The environment is changing, and with it, the conditions for survival. You look toward the horizon. There is no clear boundary, no line marking where one region ends and another begins. Only a gradual transition. This is how early humans experienced the world, not as defined spaces, but as continuous landscapes that required constant adaptation. You walk beside the others, your senses engaged. The wind moves across the open ground, carrying less moisture now. It feels lighter, but also less comforting. You bring your hand up briefly, feeling the air against your skin. It is subtle but noticeable. You continue forward. The sun has begun its slow descent, its light softening just slightly. The shadows stretch a little farther, though the day still holds. You notice how the group maintains its movement. There is no pause, no hesitation. This is not wandering. It is direction. Something easy to overlook is how early humans likely developed a sense of seasonal movement. Over time, patterns would emerge, certain areas offering more food at certain times, others becoming less reliable. You may not understand the pattern fully yet, but your body begins to follow it. You move toward lower ground where the land dips gently. The soil changes again, softer, darker, a sign of moisture returning. You step more carefully now, your feet adjusting to the slight give beneath you. There is a quiet relief in this change. Water may be near again. You glance toward the others. Their posture shifts slightly, their attention drawn toward the same subtle cues. This shared awareness continues. No words, no signals beyond movement, and yet the direction aligns. Researchers continue to explore how early humans navigated these transitions. It is not entirely clear whether movement was guided purely by immediate observation or if memory of past experiences played a role. You walk a little farther. The scent of the air changes again. Faint but familiar, damp earth. You slow, slightly scanning the ground. There are signs here. Small plants growing closer together. A slight darkening of the soil. You crouch, briefly touching the ground. Cooler. More moisture. You rise again, continuing forward. This is how movement works here. Not through maps or plans, but through attention. Through small details that guide each step. You pass through a narrow stretch where the land rises slightly on either side, forming a natural corridor. The group moves through it without stopping their pace steady. You follow. The space feels more enclosed, the air stiller. Then it opens again. Ahead the land spreads out once more, but different now. Greener. More varied. You feel the shift immediately. Relief, not dramatic, but present. The environment has changed again, offering new possibilities. You notice small animals moving through the grass, their paths more frequent here. Where there is water, there is life. And where there is life, there are more chances to find what you need. You continue walking, your steps lighter now. The ground feels more forgiving beneath you. The air carries a softer quality. You take a slow breath, letting it settle. Movement is constant in this world. not driven by urgency alone but by necessity, by the quiet understanding that staying too long in one place can limit what you find. You glance back briefly. The path behind you is not marked. There are no traces that remain, only memory. This is another subtle aspect of early human life. Movement leaves little behind. No roads, no permanent structures, only the knowledge carried within the group. You turn forward again, continuing with the others. The sun lowers further, though the light remains. There is still time. You walk across the changing land, your senses steady, your awareness quiet but constant, and you begin to understand something more deeply. That survival here is not about staying. It is about moving, adapting, following the land as it shifts. You take a slow breath, feeling the rhythm of your steps, the steady pace of the group, and you continue forward, carried by the quiet flow of the world around you. You continue forward as the land opens into a wider, more exposed stretch, and almost immediately you begin to feel the difference. The air carries a sharper edge now, not cold in a sudden way, but persistent, steady, and difficult to ignore. The wind moves more freely here. It brushes across your skin without resistance, slipping through the open space with a quiet force that does not need to be strong to be felt. You draw your arms in slightly, your body adjusting without thought. The warmth from earlier has begun to fade. The sun still hangs in the sky, but its strength has softened its angle, shifting just enough to reduce its reach. You step onto firmer ground where the surface feels compacted, less forgiving underfoot. The vegetation here is sparse, shorter, less able to hold moisture or shelter from the wind. This is a harsher place. Not empty, but more demanding. Evidence uncovered from ancient environmental records shows that early humans often lived through periods of shifting climate, including colder phases that shaped both movement and survival strategies. These changes did not happen all at once. They unfolded, gradually altering the land over generations. You continue walking, your steps steady but more deliberate. The wind presses lightly against your face. You lower your head slightly, reducing its impact. This small adjustment makes a difference. You notice how others in the group respond in similar ways. Postures shift. Movements become more contained. There is no signal, no shared instruction, only a quiet alignment. You move toward a cluster of low rocks, hoping to find some relief from the open exposure. As you approach, the wind softens slightly, its path interrupted by the uneven shapes. You step closer. The difference is immediate, less direct, less constant. You stand beside the rocks for a moment, letting your body settle. A small but telling detail is how even minimal barriers in the landscape could reduce the effects of wind. Early humans likely recognized these spaces instinctively, using them when available to conserve energy and warmth. You crouch slightly, bringing yourself closer to the ground. The air feels calmer here, not warm but less demanding. You remain for a moment, then rise again. You cannot stay. Movement continues. As you walk, you notice how the ground changes once more. Small patches of frost-like texture appear in shaded areas where the sun has not reached fully. You touch one briefly. It is cold, more than the air. You pull your hand back, feeling the sensation linger. These conditions reflect a broader pattern. During colder periods, early humans faced environments that tested their ability to adapt without fire. There are indications that many groups remained within regions where the climate allowed survival, avoiding the most extreme conditions until later developments made expansion possible. You continue forward, your awareness sharpened by the environment. Every step feels more intentional. Every movement carries a small cost. The wind returns as you leave the shelter of the rocks, moving across the land in steady waves. It does not rush. It does not need to. Its presence is constant. You glance toward the horizon. The sky is clear, but the light has shifted further now, taking on a softer tone. Time is moving. You feel it not through measurement, but through sensation. The cooling air, the lengthening shadows, the quiet changes in the behavior of the group. You notice how movement becomes slightly more focused, less wandering, more direction. The day is nearing its end. You step across a shallow rise, your foot slipping slightly on the firm ground before finding balance again. You steady yourself with your hand pressing against the surface. The texture is rough cold. You lift your hand slowly. This constant interaction with the environment shapes your understanding of it. You begin to anticipate these changes, the firmness of the ground, the direction of the wind, the fading warmth. It remains uncertain how quickly early humans adapted to these conditions, but what becomes clear is that survival depended on constant adjustment rather than fixed solutions. You continue walking your pace steady. The group moves together, their spacing tightening slightly as the environment becomes more demanding. This is not a conscious decision. It simply happens. Closer proximity offers small advantages. Shared awareness, reduced exposure, a sense of presence. You feel it as you walk. The quiet connection between each individual. The unspoken understanding that movement is shared. You pass through another stretch of open ground, the wind returning once more, brushing against you with its steady force. You lower your head again, adjusting your posture. These movements become instinctive, repeated, refined over time. You take a slow breath, feeling the air fill your chest. Cool, dry, present. The land continues to stretch ahead unchanged in its form, yet constantly shifting in its demands. You move within it, not resisting, not controlling, but adapting, step by step, moment by moment, and as the light continues to fade, you carry forward, guided by the quiet knowledge that survival here is not about overcoming the environment. It is about moving with it, even when it grows harsher, even when it asks more of you. You continue steady and aware as the day slowly begins to close. You continue moving as the land stretches into a quieter, more open space, where the wind has eased and the ground settles into a softer rhythm beneath your feet. The group slows slightly, not stopping but shifting into a more deliberate pace. Your attention begins to change again, not toward plants this time or water or shelter, but toward what remains after others have passed through. You notice it first as a faint scent in the air, not strong but distinct. You follow it slowly, your steps careful, your senses sharpening. The ground ahead shows subtle disturbance. The grass is pressed down in uneven patterns. The soil carries marks that suggest recent activity. You move closer. Then you see it. Remains, scattered bones, partially cleaned, lying across a small patch of open ground. The shape suggests a larger animal, though much of it has already been taken. You pause. The group does not rush forward. They slow, observing. This is not a place of immediate danger, but it is not without risk either. You look around carefully. No movement nearby. No signs of fresh presence. Only what has been left behind. What can be pieced together from early archaeological sites suggests that scavenging played a significant role in early human survival. Before the development of advanced hunting techniques, taking advantage of remains left by predators offered access to valuable nutrients. You step closer, your movements controlled. The bones are marked, scraped, broken in places, evidence of strong jaws, powerful teeth. This was not your work, but it can become your opportunity. You crouch beside the remains, examining them more closely. There are small fragments still attached, difficult to reach, but possible. You glance toward the others. Some begin to move in carefully, each choosing a position without crowding the space. There is no urgency, only awareness, a quiet understanding of what can be taken. You pick up your stone tool, holding it with a steady grip. You position it against a section of bone, testing the angle. Then you press. The edge catches slightly. You adjust. Press again. A small piece gives way. You continue slowly, working with patience. This is not easy work. It requires effort, attention, and time. A small but telling detail is that early humans likely relied on persistence in moments like this. The most valuable parts of a carcass were often already consumed by predators, leaving behind what required tools and effort to access. You continue scraping, removing small fragments. Each piece matters. Each bit provides energy. You pause briefly, listening. The environment remains calm. The group maintains a quiet presence, each person focused on their own small area. There is no conflict, only shared use. You return to your work. The stone edge dulls slightly with use. You adjust it against another rock, restoring its sharpness. then continue. This cycle repeats. Work, adjust, work again. It reflects a deeper pattern. Effort balanced with awareness. You notice one individual using a different technique, striking the bone with controlled force to break it open. A sharp sound, then a crack. The bone splits. Inside something new, soft material. You watch closely, then try it yourself. You lift your stone. Strike. The first attempt glances off. You adjust. Strike again. This time the bone shifts. A small fracture forms. You continue, careful, controlled, until it breaks. You pause, looking at what you have revealed. This is something different. More accessible, more immediate. You gather what you can, your movement steady. There is no sense of excess. Only use. Something rarely considered is how important bone marrow may have been in early human diets. It is rich in energy, easier to consume than raw muscle, and accessible with simple tools once the bone is opened. You sit back slightly, taking a moment to breathe. The work is slow, but it provides. You glance around once more. The group remains calm. No sudden movements. No signs of danger. This place for now is safe enough. You continue for a few more moments, then stop. There is no need to take everything. What remains will return to the land. Nothing is wasted here. You stand stepping back from the remains. Your hands carry the marks of your work. Your tool slightly worn. You hold it loosely at your side. The group begins to move again. Not all at once, but gradually. One stands, another follows. Then another. You join them. The place is left behind. No trace of your presence beyond what was already there. This is the rhythm. Find. Use. Move on. You walk forward your steps, steady your awareness, returning to the broader landscape. The sun continues to lower its light, softening further. Time is moving. The day is nearing its end, and you carry with you what you have gained. Not just food, but understanding. That survival here is not always about finding something new. Sometimes it is about recognizing what has been left behind and knowing how to use it. You take a slow breath, feeling the steady rhythm of your movement return. And you continue forward, part of the quiet cycle that shapes this world. You continue walking as the air shifts once more, carrying with it a subtle layer of information that does not come from sight or sound alone. You begin to notice scent more clearly now, not as something occasional, but as something constant. It moves with the wind, drifting across the land in faint currents that change from moment to moment. Sometimes it is barely there. Other times it becomes distinct enough to guide your attention without effort. You slow, slightly breathing in through your nose. The air carries a mixture of earth-dry grass and something sharper beneath it. You pause. That sharper note holds your focus. You turn your head gently, testing the direction. The scent strengthens, then fades, then returns again as the wind shifts. This is not random. It is a signal. What can be inferred from studies for early human behavior is that scent likely played a more important role than it does in modern life. Without artificial masking from smoke chemicals or constructed environments, the natural world remained clear and layered with information. You begin to follow the scent slowly, not rushing, allowing it to guide you in small adjustments. Each step brings slight changes, stronger, weaker, then stronger again. You move across a patch of uneven ground, your feet brushing lightly against low vegetation. The leaves release a faint aroma as they shift, adding another layer to what you are sensing. You pause again, separating the scents: earth, plants, and something else, something that suggests presence. A quiet detail that becomes more noticeable over time is how animals leave traces of themselves through scent alone. Even without seeing them, their recent movement can be sensed through the air, through the ground, through the plants they have passed. You remain still for a moment, allowing the information to settle. The scent does not feel immediate, not fresh, but not distant either. You adjust your path slightly, moving in a direction that avoids its strongest point. This is not fear, it is awareness. It remains uncertain how sensitive early humans were to scent compared to other animals. But there are indications that attention to smell, combined with observation, helped build a more complete understanding of the environment. You continue walking, your breathing steady. As you move, the air changes again. A softer scent now. Moisture. You recognize it more quickly this time. Water nearby. Your steps adjust naturally following the faint signal. This is how scent works here. It does not give clear answers. It offers direction. You move toward a lower part of the land where the ground dips gently. The soil becomes darker, the air cooler. The scent of moisture grows stronger. You reach a small patch where the ground holds more life. Plants grow closer together. The earth feels softer beneath your feet. You kneel, touching the ground. Damp. You bring your hand closer, noticing the faint scent that rises from it. This is confirmation. You are near water, even if it is not immediately visible. You rise again, continuing forward. Few steps later, you hear it. Soft, subtle, a slow movement beneath the surface. A small stream partially hidden by the surrounding growth. You step closer, parting the plants gently with your hands. There it is. You kneel, lowering your hands into the water. The sensation is familiar grounding. You drink slowly, letting the water settle. As you do, you notice another scent, faint but present. Not from the water, from nearby. You look up, scanning the area. There are signs here. Disturbed soil, broken stems, movement. This place is used, not just by you. A small but telling detail is how water sources often became shared points of activity for many species. This created both opportunity and risk, requiring constant awareness. You stand slowly, stepping back from the edge. Your senses remain engaged. The scent lingers, but it is not immediate. You move a short distance away, giving space to the area. This is part of the balance. To take what you need without staying too long. You continue walking along the edge of the water, your steps quiet. The scent of moisture follows you, mixing with the earth and plant life. It feels different from the open land, rich air, more layered. You take a slow breath, noticing how the air fills your chest. Cooler, heavier. You begin to understand something more clearly. That scent is not just background. It is information, a constant stream of signals that guide movement, shape decisions, and reveal what cannot be seen. You walk a little farther, then turn away from the water, returning to more open ground. The scent fades gradually as you move, replaced by dry grass, then by neutral air. The shift is subtle but clear. You glance back briefly. The place remains unchanged, but you do not stay. Movement continues. You step forward, your awareness now extended beyond sight and sound. You carry with you the understanding of scent, how it moves, how it changes, how it guides, and as you walk you begin to trust it more. Another quiet layer of the world, always present, always shifting. You take a slow breath once more, letting the air settle within you, and you continue forward, guided not just by what you see or hear, but by what you sense in the space around you. You continue moving across the open ground, the steady rhythm of your steps returning as the land stretches quietly ahead. The air feels balanced for now, neither too cool nor too warm, and the sounds of the day settle into a familiar pattern. But something begins to shift again. Not in the distance, not in the sky, but in your attention. You start to notice how often you pause, not out of hesitation but out of thought. A moment where your movement slows, your gaze lingers, and something inside you seems to hold on to what you've just seen. You stop near a cluster of rocks, looking at the space around you. You have passed places like this before. The shape of the stones, the way they rise from the ground, the slight dip nearby where moisture gathers. It feels familiar. You tilt your head slightly, studying it. There is a sense that you have been here or somewhere very much like it. This is not certainty, but it is close. What can be pieced together from early human development suggests that memory played an increasing role in survival over time. The ability to recall useful locations, safe paths, and reliable resources would have offered a quiet but powerful advantage. You take a slow step forward, then another, testing the feeling. Yes, something about this place stays with you. You move toward the dip in the ground, crouching as you reach it. The soil is darker here, softer. You press your hand into it. Cool. You have felt this before. Not just today, before. You look around more carefully now. The arrangement of the rocks, the direction of the slope, the way the light falls across the ground. These details begin to connect. A faint map not drawn but remembered. You stand again, your attention sharper now. This is different from simple observation. This is recognition. You glance toward the others. Some move with the same steady rhythm. Others pause just as you did. Looking, considering. Perhaps they feel it too. A small but telling detail is how early humans may have begun to form mental maps of their environment, not as exact representations but as collections of familiar patterns. These patterns could guide movement even across large distances. You begin to walk again, but your movement is no longer guided only by what you see in the moment. It is shaped by what you remember. You move toward a direction that feels right, not proven, not certain, but familiar. The ground changes slightly as you go, becoming more uneven, then smoothing again. You step carefully, your body adjusting as it always does. But now there is something more. Expectation. You look ahead, and before you reach it, you sense what you might find. Arise in the land. A cluster of plants. A path that curves slightly to the left. And then as you arrive, it is there. Not exactly as you imagined, but close enough. You pause. This confirmation strengthens something inside you. A connection between past and present. Between memory and movement. There are hints, but no clear answer about how early this ability developed in human history. Some believe it emerged gradually as groups moved across larger areas. Others think it may have been present earlier, growing more refined over time. You continue walking, your confidence slightly steadier now. The land no longer feels entirely unknown. It feels like something you're beginning to understand. You pass by a small patch of vegetation that you recognize as well. The shape of the leaves. The way they grow close to the ground. You crouch, touching them lightly. Yes, you have seen these before. You gather a small amount, your movement's more certain this time. Less hesitation. Less testing. Memory guides your choice. You stand again, continuing forward. The group moves around you, each person following their own sense of direction, yet still remaining connected. This shared movement becomes more complex now. Not just reaction, but recall. You glance toward one individual who turns, slightly adjusting their path before encountering a small obstacle. They knew it was there, or at least they sensed it. This quiet use of memory spreads through the group, shaping movement in ways that are not immediately visible. You walk on your steps steady. The sun continues its slow descent, the light softening further. Time moves forward, but your awareness now reaches backward as well. You remember the stream from earlier, the shelter, the open ground. These places remain with you not as images, but as impressions, guides. You begin to understand that movement is no longer only about the present moment. It is about connecting moments together, building a path through time. You take a slow breath, feeling the air settle within you. The land stretches ahead, still vast, still shifting, but now it feels slightly less unknown. You carry pieces of it with you, not in your hands, but in your mind, and as you continue forward, your steps guided by both awareness and memory, you begin to move not just through the world, but within it, as something that remembers. You continue forward, your steps guided not only by what you see, but by what you remember. The land feels quieter now, not because it has changed, but because your awareness has settled into a deeper rhythm. And within that rhythm, something else begins to rise. A sharper edge of attention. You do not notice it all at once. It builds slowly. A faint sound in the distance. A shift in movement among the smaller animals. The way the air feels slightly tighter, as if something unseen has entered the space around you. You slow your pace. Your body responds before your thoughts fully form. Your shoulders draw in slightly. Your breathing becomes more controlled. This is instinct, not learned in a single moment, but shaped over countless experiences. You pause, listening. The sound comes again. Brief. Low, not loud enough to startle, but clear enough to matter. You turn your head, gently scanning the direction it came from. Nothing immediately visible. But that does not mean nothing is there. The world you move through does not always reveal itself directly. Much of it must be sensed, felt, interpreted. Early human survival depended on this ability to respond quickly, often without conscious reasoning. Reaction came first. Understanding followed later, if at all. You take a slow step back, not retreating fully, just creating space. The group around you responds in subtle ways. Movement slows, spacing tightens, eyes shift toward the same direction. No one speaks, no one signals, and yet the awareness spreads. A shared tension, quiet but present. You crouch slightly, lowering your profile. The grass brushes against your hands. You feel the ground beneath you steady, real. You listen again. The sound does not return immediately, but the absence of sound becomes its own signal. You remain still. Time stretches in this moment, not measured in seconds, but in breaths, in heartbeats. You notice your pulse steady, but slightly quicker than before. This is not panic. It is readiness. A subtle detail that emerges from studies of early human behavior is how quickly the body can shift into a state of alertness. This response, often described today as instinctive, likely played a crucial role in avoiding danger before it became immediate. You glance toward the others. One remains standing, watching the distance. Another has lowered themselves closer to the ground. Each position offers a different view. Together they create a wider field of awareness. This is not planned. It is natural. You take another slow breath. The air feels still. The wind has softened. Even the smaller movements around you seem to pause. Then faintly you see it. A movement at the edge of your vision. Low. Controlled. Gone again. You do not follow it directly. You do not move toward it. Instead you remain still, letting it pass. This choice reflects something important. Not every encounter needs to be confronted. Avoidance is often the safest path. There is still no clear agreement on how often early humans faced direct encounters with predators, but the evidence suggests that caution and awareness reduce the need for conflict whenever possible. You wait. The tension lingers, then begins to ease. The air shifts again. The smaller sounds return. A faint rustle. A distant call. The rhythm of the land resumes. You exhale slowly, feeling your body release a small amount of tension. The moment has passed, not because the danger disappeared entirely, but because it moved beyond your immediate space. You rise carefully, your movements controlled. The group begins to shift as well, not all at once, gradually. Each person returning to motion in their own time. You step forward again, your awareness still heightened but no longer tense. This is the pattern. Alertness. Stillness. Then movement again. It repeats day after day. You walk across the land, your senses adjusting back to a more balanced state. The sun continues to lower, the light softening further. Shadows stretch longer now. The air cools slightly. Time continues its quiet movement. You glance once more toward the direction where the movement had been. There is nothing visible now, only open land. You turn forward again, your steps steady, your breathing calm, and you begin to understand something more clearly. That fear here is not overwhelming. It does not take control. It moves through you briefly, then fades. Leaving behind awareness, you take a slow breath, letting it settle. The land stretches ahead unchanged, and you continue forward, carrying with you the quiet instinct that keeps you aware. Without disturbing the calm, you continue walking as the tension from before fades into something quieter, something more reflective. The land opens again, wide and steady, and your breathing returns to its calm rhythm. For a while, nothing demands your attention. No sudden movement, no sharp sounds, only the soft continuity of the world around you. And in this quiet space, something new begins to take shape. You slow your steps, not because you must, but because you choose to. Your gaze lingers on things a little longer now. A pattern in the ground, the shape of a distant tree, the way the light settles across the surface of a rock. You pause, looking, not searching for food, not scanning for danger, just observing. This is different. There is no immediate need guiding this moment. Only curiosity, a small but meaningful shift. There are hints in the archaeological record that early humans did not spend every moment in urgent survival. There were periods, however brief, where attention could drift beyond immediate needs, allowing space for observation and exploration. You step closer to a cluster of stones, their surfaces worn smooth by time. You reach out, touching one. It feels warm from the fading sun. You turn it slightly, noticing how its shape fits into your hand. You do not need it. You're not using it for anything. And yet you hold it. You examine its edges, its weight, the way it balances. Then you set it down again. This small action carries no clear purpose, and yet it feels important. You continue walking, your attention still open. You notice a pattern in the ground where small animals have moved repeatedly, creating faint paths through the grass. You follow one briefly, not because you expect to find something, but because you want to see where it leads. It curves gently, then disappears. You stop. That is enough. You turn back. This kind of movement reflects something deeper than survival. It reflects exploration. Some lines of research suggest that curiosity may have played a role in early human development, encouraging individuals to engage with their environment in ways that were not strictly necessary for immediate survival. You walk a little farther, your steps slow and unhurried. The group continues around you, each person moving within their own rhythm. There is no urgency. The day is still present, though beginning to soften. You notice a patch of ground where the soil has cracked into small patterns. You crouch beside it, tracing one of the lines with your finger. The shape is irregular, but it holds a certain consistency. You follow it for a moment, then stop. There is something calming in this simple act. A connection between your movement and the surface of the earth. You sit back slightly, letting your hand rest against the ground. The texture presses gently into your skin. You feel the warmth fading slowly. You lift your hand and look at it. There is nothing new there. And yet the act itself has meaning. Something rarely considered is how early human awareness may have extended beyond survival tasks into moments of simple engagement with the environment. These moments, though small, could have contributed to cognitive development over time. You stand again, continuing your walk. The light shifts further now, taking on a softer tone. The edges of things become less sharp. Colours begin to blend. You notice how the world feels different in this light, less defined, more fluid. You pause once more, looking toward the horizon. The sky stretches wide, carrying subtle variations in colour. You watch for a moment. There is no immediate purpose in this, only presence. No one can say for certain how early humans experienced moments like this, but it is possible that awareness of beauty, or at least of change, existed long before it was expressed in words. You take a slow breath, letting the air settle within you. The group continues moving, but without urgency. You follow your steps light. The ground beneath you feels familiar, the air steady, the sounds gentle. You notice how your mind feels quieter now, less focused on immediate needs, more open. You pick up another small object from the ground, a piece of wood worn and smooth. You turn it in your hand, feeling its shape. Then you drop it. Again, no clear reason, and yet the act itself feels complete. You continue walking, your attention drifting between the land and your own thoughts. This is a new layer of experience, not just reacting, not just surviving, but noticing, exploring, engaging. You take another slow breath, feeling the calm settle deeper. The day continues its slow movement toward evening, and you move within it, not driven by urgency in this moment, but guided by something quieter, something that is only beginning to take shape. Curiosity. You continue walking your pace unhurried, your awareness still softened by the quiet moments that came before. The land stretches ahead in gentle layers, and your steps fall into a rhythm that feels almost effortless now. But something within you begins to shift again, not in the world around you, in the way you move through it. You notice it as you approach a slight rise in the ground. Without thinking, you angle your path just a little to the right, avoiding a patch of uneven soil before you even step into it. You pause. You did not see it clearly, and yet you moved around it. You take a step back, looking at the ground more closely. There it is, a shallow dip barely visible from a distance. You tilt your head slightly. There is a sense that you knew it would be there, not because you remembered this exact place, but because it feels like other places you have known. You continue forward, more aware now of this quiet process. Your movement begins to carry a new layer, expectation. You step across another stretch of land, your feet adjusting before the surface changes. You reach out toward a cluster of plants, choosing them with less hesitation than before. You are not just reacting anymore. You are anticipating. This is subtle, so gradual that it might go unnoticed, and yet it shapes everything. What emerges from the study of early human behavior suggests that the ability to plan even in simple ways began long before complex tools or language. It may not have looked like deliberate strategy, but small choices made ahead of time. You move toward a shaded area not because you feel cold, but because you sense the shift that will come as the light fades. You sit briefly adjusting your position. This is not rest for its own sake. It is preparation. You rise again after a moment, continuing forward. The sun has lowered slightly more now. The light feels softer. You notice how your attention begins to shift toward what will come next, where you might rest, where shelter might be found, where the ground feels familiar enough to return to. You glance toward the others. Their movements carry the same quiet adjustments. Paths chosen not just for what is present, but for what might be needed later. No one speaks. No one signals. And yet the direction aligns. There is a sense, not a certainty, that everyone is moving towards something shared. You step over a fallen branch, your foot lifting just enough to clear it without breaking your rhythm. You did not stop to consider it. You simply moved. This growing ability to act ahead of the moment reflects something deeper, a forming connection between past experience and future action. You continue walking, your awareness stretching slightly forward now. You look toward the land ahead, noticing shapes that suggest shelter. A cluster of rocks, a shallow rise, a place where the wind might be less direct. You adjust your path toward it, not because you must, but because it feels right. You arrive a few moments later. The space is familiar in its structure, not the same as before, but similar enough. You step inside the shallow cover, testing the air. It feels still, protected. You step back out again. You're not ready to stop yet, but you know this place now. You can return to it. This is the beginning of something important. Holding a place in mind, returning when needed, a small but meaningful shift. There are signs in early human development that suggest this kind of forward thinking gradually became more refined. The ability to remember a location and return to it later would have provided a clear advantage. You continue moving, but now with a quiet sense of direction. Not fixed, not certain, but present. You glance back once more toward the shelter. It remains where you left it, waiting. You turn forward again. Your steps carry a new weight. Not heavy, but intentional. You begin to notice how your choices no longer only about the present moment. They extend slightly beyond it. A few steps ahead, a few moments forward. You gather a small amount of food as you walk, not because you are immediately hungry, but because you know you will be. You carry it loosely in your hand. You continue. The light continues to soften. The air cools slightly. The day moves toward its end, and you are already preparing for it. Not with tools, not with plans as you might define them, but with quiet adjustments, subtle decisions, movements shaped by what has been and what might come. You take a slow breath, feeling the steady rhythm of your steps, the calm awareness within you. And as you continue forward, you begin to understand something quietly significant. That survival is no longer only about reacting. It is about anticipating, even in the smallest ways. You walk on, guided by this new sense as the day gently moves toward night once more. You continue forward, carrying that quiet sense of anticipation with you. The light has softened further now, and the air begins to shift in a way that feels familiar, though never exactly the same. A faint breeze passes across your skin, then another. You lift your head slightly, noticing how the air no longer feels steady. It moves in small, uneven patterns, brushing past you and then pulling away. You slow your steps. The land ahead remains open, but something about it feels unsettled. You glance upward. The sky has changed. Not dramatically, but enough. A thin layer of cloud stretches across part of it, softening the light even more. The edges of the sun blur slightly, no longer sharp against the horizon. You feel the temperature shift. Subtle, but real. You draw your arms in just a little closer. You continue walking, your senses adjusting. The wind strengthens slightly, moving through the grass with a quiet sound that was not there before. It bends the taller stems, causing them to sway in uneven patterns. You watch for a moment, then move again. Weather does not announce itself here. It arrives gradually, through small changes, through signals that must be noticed. What can be observed from ancient environmental evidence is that early humans lived entirely exposed to shifting weather conditions. Without shelter beyond what nature provided, changes in wind temperature and precipitation directly shaped daily life. You feel another shift in the air. Cooler now. The warmth of the day continues to fade. You glance toward the group. Their movements have changed slightly. Less wandering, more direction. You follow. The ground beneath you begins to slope gently downward. The soil becomes softer, holding more moisture. The scent of damp earth returns faint but steady. This place may offer some protection. You continue your steps, careful. The wind presses lightly against your back, now guiding you forward. You reach a shallow depression where the land curves inward, creating a natural barrier on one side. You step into it. The difference is immediate. The wind softens. The air feels more contained. You pause, testing the space. It is not fully sheltered, but it offers something. Less exposure, less movement in the air. You look around, noticing how the group gathers here not tightly, but with a shared awareness of the space. This is not coincidence. It is response. You crouch, touching the ground. It is cool, slightly damp. You lift your hand, feeling the moisture linger on your skin. You sit for a moment, letting your body adjust. The wind continues above, moving across the open land, but here it is reduced. This matters. Something easy to miss is how even shallow dips in the landscape could provide meaningful protection from wind and weather. Early humans likely used these features often, even if only for short periods. You look up again. The clouds have thickened slightly. The light dims further. The air carries a different scent now, faint, but growing. You breathe in slowly. There is something in it, a heaviness, a hint of rain. You remain still listening. The wind shifts again, bringing the scent closer. Then you feel it, a small drop against your skin. You pause, then another, light, scattered, but real. You look toward the sky. The clouds move slowly, their edges blending into one another. The rain is not heavy. Not yet, but it has begun. You adjust your position, leaning slightly toward the side of the depression, where the ground rises higher. The drops continue soft at first, barely more than a touch. They land on the ground, darkening the soil in small patches. You watch as the pattern spreads. The scent of earth grows stronger, richer. You draw your arms in closer, again your body responding to the cooling air. Without fire, without constructed shelter, there is little to stop the rain completely. Only ways to reduce its impact. You shift slightly, placing yourself where the slope offers the most coverage. The drops reach you less frequently here. Not gone, but fewer. This is enough for now. The group settles into similar positions, each person finding their own small advantage within the space. No one speaks. No one signals. And yet the adjustment is shared. Rainfall would have been a constant factor in early human life, shaping movement and shelter choices. There is still some uncertainty about how often early humans sought cover versus continuing to move, but both responses likely occurred depending on the situation. You sit quietly, feeling the occasional drop reach your skin. Cool. Light. The sound of rain grows slightly, a soft pattern forming across the ground. You listen. There is a calm in it, a steady rhythm that replaces the earlier wind. You remain where you are, letting the moment settle. The rain does not last long. It rarely does in this form. After a short time, the drops become less frequent. And stop. The clouds begin to thin. The light returns slightly, though still softer than before. You lift your head, noticing the change. The air feels fresh now. Cooler. Clearer. You rise slowly, brushing your hands against your legs. The ground beneath you holds the memory of the rain, darker and softer than before. You step forward, leaving the shallow shelter behind. The group begins to move again, their pace steady. The moment has passed, but it has left its mark. You take a slow breath, feeling the cool air fill your chest, and you continue forward, carrying the quiet understanding that the world here is always changing, and you must change with it. You continue forward as the last traces of moisture settle into the ground, leaving the air cooler and clearer than before. The scent of rain fades slowly, replaced once again by the quieter, more neutral tones of earth and grass. The light continues to soften. It does not disappear all at once. It thins, gradually stretching across the land in longer shadows that reach farther with each passing moment. You feel it in your body. The day is ending. Your steps slow slightly, not from exhaustion, but from recognition. There is a quiet shift in your attention, moving away from searching and gathering and towards something more inward. The night is coming. You glance toward the horizon where the sky holds a muted glow. The sun has lowered enough that its warmth no longer reaches you in the same way. The air cools steadily, now touching your skin with a calm persistence. You draw your arms in slightly. You are familiar with this moment. You have passed through it before, and yet each time carries its own quiet weight. You look around, scanning the land for a place to settle. Not a perfect place, not a safe place in any absolute sense, but a place that offers some balance. A slight rise. A cluster of stones, a shallow dip. These are the shapes that matter now. You move toward a small formation of rocks, their surfaces catching the last of the fading light. They do not form a full shelter, but they create a boundary, a small interruption in the open space. You step closer. The ground here feels firmer, more stable. You pause, testing the air. It is still. The wind has eased. This is enough. You lower yourself, slowly adjusting your position among the rocks. The surface is uneven, pressing gently against your body. You shift slightly, finding a place that requires less effort to hold. You sit, then remain still. The light continues to fade. Colours soften, further blending into one another until the land becomes less defined. Shapes remain, but details begin to disappear. You watch as the horizon dims. There is a quiet stillness in this transition. No sudden change. Only a gradual closing of the day. You listen. The sounds begin to shift again. The daytime movement fades, replaced by something softer, more distant. A faint rustle here. A low call there. The world does not become silent, but it changes its tone. You breathe slowly, letting the air settle within you. There is a sense of pause here. A moment where nothing is required. No movement, no decision, only waiting. Something that becomes clear in environments like this is how long the night truly is. Without artificial light, without anything to extend the day, darkness takes its full time. You feel it approaching. You adjust your position slightly, drawing your body inward once more. The ground holds a faint trace of warmth from earlier, but it is fading quickly. You place your hand against it, feeling the difference. Cooler now. You bring your hand back, resting it against your leg. The first stars begin to appear, faint at first, then clearer as the light continues to withdraw. You lift your gaze. The sky opens again, vast and unbroken. The stars spread across it in quiet patterns, more numerous than the night before, or perhaps simply more visible now. You watch them for a moment. There is something steady in their presence, unchanging even as everything else shifts. You remain still, letting your eyes adjust to the growing darkness. The land becomes a series of outlines. The rocks around you, the distant shapes, the horizon itself, all soften into shadow. This is the beginning of the long night. You listen again. The sounds are clearer now, closer. The movement of unseen creatures passing through the dark. You feel the quiet awareness return, not sharp, not tense, but present. You shift slightly, settling deeper into your position. Your breathing slows. Your body prepares for rest. This is not sleep yet, but the space before it, a gradual release. You close your eyes for a moment, then open them again. The darkness has deepened further. Time moves even when you are still. A small, often overlooked aspect of early human life is how much of the night was spent in this in-between state. Not fully asleep, not fully awake, but existing in a quiet balance between the two. You adjust again, your body finding a position that requires less effort. Your muscles soften. Your breath steadies. You remain aware of the space around you even as your focus begins to drift. The stars continue their slow movement across the sky. The air cools further. The ground beneath you becomes firmer, colder. You draw your body inward once more, conserving what warmth you can. There is no fire to gather around, no light to soften the dark, only this, the open sky, the quiet land, the long stretch of night ahead. You take a slow breath, letting it settle deeply, and you remain there in that calm space between day and night as the darkness fully arrives once more. You remain still as the night settles more deeply around you, the last trace of evening fully gone. The sky above has darkened into a wide, endless field scattered with quiet points of light that seem both distant and close at the same time. Your body has found a position that holds, not perfectly comfortable but stable. That is enough. You feel the ground beneath you firm and cool, pressing gently into your side. The air rests lightly against your skin, cooler, now steady and unchanged. There is no movement to distract you, no shift that demands attention. For a while everything simply continues, then slowly you become aware of something else, a small discomfort. It does not arrive suddenly. It builds, a faint ache in your hand perhaps from earlier movement, from pressing against rough surfaces, from repeated use throughout the day. You lift it slightly, turning it in the dim light. There is no clear injury, only sensation. You touch it gently with your other hand, pressing lightly along the surface. The feeling shifts, less sharp, more diffuse. You lower it again. Moments like this would have been common. Small strains, minor cuts, the quiet wear of constant movement. In a world without tools for treatment, without any structured way to heal, beyond what the body can do on its own, these sensations would simply be part of life. You adjust your position slightly, shifting your weight to ease the pressure. The ground changes beneath you, offering a slightly different support. The discomfort lessens, not gone, but manageable. You breathe slowly, allowing your body to settle again. There is no urgency here. No need to fix anything immediately. Only the gradual process of rest. You close your eyes for a moment, then open them again. The stars remain, unchanged. You listen. The night carries its own rhythm, soft and continuous. Distant movement passes through the darkness, barely noticeable unless you focus on it. A faint rustle, a low sound that comes and goes. Nothing close, nothing immediate. You let your body soften again. Another small sensation draws your attention. Your shoulder this time, a dull pressure from where it rests against the ground. You shift again slowly, testing a new position. It feels better. You remain there. This quiet adjustment continues throughout the night. Small movements, subtle changes, always seeking balance. It becomes clear in moments like this how early humans must have relied entirely on their own awareness to manage discomfort. There is no separation between the body and its surroundings. Every surface, every position, every movement affects how you feel. You draw your legs in, slightly conserving warmth. The air cools further, though gently. You notice it more along the edges of your body where the ground does not shield you. You tuck your arms closer. This helps. A little. You remain still. Time moves quietly. There is no clear boundary between rest and wakefulness. Only a gradual drifting. You close your eyes again. This time you remain there longer. Your breathing slows. Your body releases more of its tension. Not completely. Never completely, but enough. Somewhere in the night you shift again, half aware, adjusting without fully waking. Your hand moves slightly, finding a more comfortable place. Your shoulder settles deeper into the ground. The discomfort fades into the background. This is how rest happens here, not as a single continuous state, but as a series of small adjustments, moments of stillness, moments of movement, all blending together. You open your eyes again briefly. The sky has shifted. The stars have moved slightly from where they were before. You do not measure this. You simply notice it. Then you close your eyes once more. Your body continues its quiet process, recovering, adapting. There is no way to speed it, no way to guide it. Only time, only stillness. You take a slow breath, feeling the air move in and out. The ground remains beneath you steady and unchanged. The night continues around you vast and calm, and within it your body does what it must. It endures. It heals in its own quiet way. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough to carry you forward into the next day. You remain there suspended between rest and awareness as the long night slowly moves toward its end. You begin to stir again, not fully awake, not fully at rest. The night has not yet ended, but something within it has shifted. The air feels slightly different, as if it has settled into a deeper calm. You open your eyes. The stars remain, though their positions have changed. The sky feels quieter now, less active, as if the long stretch of darkness has reached its most still point. You remain where you're letting your senses return gradually. Then you notice something, a small movement just beyond your immediate view. You do not turn your head quickly. You wait. You listen. A faint sound follows, soft, controlled, not close but not distant either. Your body responds in a quiet way, not with tension but with attention. You lift your head slightly, just enough to widen your view without making your presence known. There, near the edge of the open ground, something moves again, a shape low and steady passing through the darkness. You do not try to identify it fully. You do not need to. You remain still. This is how awareness works here. Not through sudden action, but through stillness, through patience, through allowing the moment to pass without drawing attention to yourself. You glance slightly to the side. Others are awake as well. Not fully, not in the way you might expect, but aware. One shifts slightly, adjusting their position without rising. Another opens their eyes, then remains still. This shared awareness spreads quietly. No signal, no sound, and yet it is understood. The group is awake. Together. Something becomes clear in this moment. You are not alone in your awareness. It is shared, distributed. Each person sensing a small part of the world together, forming a wider understanding. You return your gaze to the open ground. The movement continues, then fades. The shape disappears into the darkness beyond. You wait a little longer. The sound does not return. Gradually the stillness settles again. The night resumes its quiet rhythm. You lower your head slightly, though you do not fully rest yet. This pattern feels familiar now. Waking without rising, listening without moving, remaining part of the world even while resting within it. You close your eyes for a moment, then open them again. The stars have shifted a little more. Time has passed, not measured, but felt. You adjust your position slightly, turning your body just enough to ease the pressure along your side. The ground is still cool, though not as sharply as before. The air has softened. You notice your breathing again, slow, steady. The moment of alertness has passed, but the awareness remains, a quiet readiness beneath the surface. This is how the group functions, not through constant activity, but through shared presence. At any moment, someone is aware, someone is listening, someone is watching. Even in rest, the group remains connected to its surroundings. You glance once more toward the others. Their forms are still but not completely inactive. A subtle movement here, a shift there. Each person adjusting, responding, maintaining that quiet balance. You take a slow breath, letting your body settle again. The ground supports you. The air moves gently across your skin. The night continues. You close your eyes once more. This time your body relaxes more fully. The tension has passed. The moment of alertness has faded into memory. You drift again, not into deep sleep, but into something close. A state where your body rests, but your connection to the world remains. Somewhere beyond awareness, time continues to move. The stars shift further. The air changes slightly. The first hint of morning begins to form, though it is still far from visible. You remain within this quiet state, resting, listening, part of the group, part of the land, part of the slow movement of the night. And as the darkness holds for a little while longer, you continue to exist within it, balance between stillness and awareness, waiting for the day to return once more. You begin to notice the night loosening its hold, not with light at first, but with a subtle change in the air. It feels thinner somehow, less dense than it was before, as if the darkness itself is beginning to lift. You open your eyes. The sky is still dark, but not as deep. The stars remain, though their brightness has softened just slightly. You stay where you are, allowing your awareness to return in its own time. There is no need to rise yet. The world is in between, not fully night, not yet day. You listen. The sounds have changed again. Fewer now, more spaced out. The quiet stretches longer between them. You shift slightly, easing your body into a more upright position. The ground feels familiar beneath you, though still cool. You place your hand against it, noticing the faint difference. Less cold than before. You lift your gaze toward the horizon. There a faint line begins to form. Not light exactly, but the suggestion of it. You watch it for a moment, then glance toward the others. Some remain still. Others begin to move. Slowly, gently. One rises partway, then pauses. Another adjusts their position, sitting upright. The group begins to stir, not all at once. Gradually, like the land itself, you take a slow breath, feeling the air move through you. It carries a slight freshness now, a hint of what is coming. You stand carefully, your muscles responding with a quiet stiffness that fades as you move. Your body adjusts. It remembers. You step forward, testing your balance. The ground holds. You walk a few steps, letting your body settle into motion again. There is a quiet familiarity in this moment. The transition from stillness to movement. From night to day, you glance once more toward the horizon. The faint line has grown slightly clearer. A soft grey now stretching across the edge of the sky. You feel a small shift within yourself. Energy returning. Not suddenly, but steadily. This is how each day begins. Not with urgency, but with gradual awakening. You move a little farther, your steps slow, your attention open. The land around you begins to take shape again. Faint outlines become clearer. The rocks, the ground, the spaces between. You look down, noticing the marks left by your resting place. Subtle impressions in the soil, a slight disturbance in the surface. You step away from it. Soon even these traces will fade. You continue walking, your body warming slightly with movement. The air still carries a cool edge, but it no longer presses as strongly. You feel the change. It is small, but it matters. You glance toward the others again. They are moving now as well, not in a single direction yet, but with a shared sense of beginning. The day is returning. You step across the ground, your feet finding their rhythm once more. The faint light grows, not quickly, but steadily. You begin to see more detail. The texture of the soil, the shape of nearby plants, the subtle variations in colour that were hidden during the night. You pause briefly, taking it in. This moment, the return of visibility, the quiet reappearance of the world. You move again. Your steps feel more certain now, your body more responsive. The long night has passed, and you have passed through it. You glance toward a familiar direction, a place where water might be, where food might be found, where the day can begin again. You begin to move that way, not with urgency, but with quiet intention. There is a sense, not a certainty, that this path will lead somewhere useful. You follow it. The light continues to grow. The sky shifts from grey to something softer. Hints of colour begin to form. The air carries a new clarity. You take a slow breath, feeling it settle within you. This is the beginning again. Another cycle. Another day shaped by movement, awareness, and quiet adaptation. You continue forward your steps, steady, your senses open. The group moves with you. The land unfolds ahead, and you follow the gentle return of light into the day. You continue forward as the light strengthens, slowly revealing the land in clearer detail. The sky shifts from soft grey into pale colour, and the air carries a quiet freshness that feels new, even though it has come before. Your steps fall into a steady rhythm again. Not rushed, not delayed, simply moving with the day as it unfolds. The ground beneath you feels slightly damp from the night, holding a faint coolness that fades as the light grows. You notice how your body adjusts your muscles, loosening your breathing, settling into something deeper and more even. For a while, nothing demands your attention. No sudden movement, no sharp change, only the quiet return of the world. You walk across a gentle rise, and as you reach the top, you pause, not because you must, but because something invites you to. The view stretches outward. The land unfolds in long, soft layers, each one touched by the early light. Shadows remain, but they no longer hide. They simply rest, waiting to fade. You stand there for a moment, still. You are not searching, not gathering, not avoiding. Just present. Your gaze moves slowly across the horizon, following the line where the sky meets the earth. There is a calm in this, a quiet space where nothing needs to be done. You take a slow breath. The air feels lighter now, warmer. The chill of the night has almost gone. You step forward again, descending the gentle slope. Your feet move with ease, finding their path without effort. As you walk, you notice small details returning. The movement of insects in the grass, the soft sound of birds beginning their day, the way the light catches on the surface of leaves, creating brief flashes that shift as you pass. These are not new, but they feel new. You move toward a patch of ground where the soil has settled into a smooth surface. You crouch briefly, placing your hand against it. The warmth is returning. Slowly. You leave your hand there for a moment, feeling the change, and then you lift it. You stand again, continuing forward. There is no urgency in this movement, only continuity. You notice how your attention moves differently now, less focused on specific tasks, more open. You glance toward the others. They move in the same quiet way. Some ahead, some behind, all part of the same slow flow. There is no need to stay close, and yet no one moves too far. This balance holds without effort. You continue walking, your senses steady. The land remains open, offering no immediate challenge. And within this ease you begin to feel something else. A pause. Not in your movement, but in your need to act. You pass by a cluster of stones and slightly running your hand across one as you move. The surface is smooth, worn. You trace its edge for a moment, then let your hand fall away. There is no reason to stop, and yet the moment stays with you. You continue your steps light. The air moves gently now, no longer carrying the sharp edge from before. It brushes against your skin in a way that feels almost soft. You take another slow breath. The world feels balanced, not demanding, not pressing, simply present. You walk a little farther, then pause again, this time without thinking. You look around, nothing has changed, and yet the stillness holds you there for a moment longer. You stand quietly, your body at ease. There is no need to move, no need to act, only to be. You close your eyes briefly, then open them again. The light has grown stronger, the colours clearer, the shapes more defined. The day is fully here now. You step forward once more, your movement returning naturally. The pause fades. The rhythm resumes. You continue across the land, your awareness steady, your body relaxed. And you begin to understand something gently, that not every moment is shaped by need. Some are shaped by stillness, by presence, by the quiet experience of the world as it is. You walk on, carrying that calm with you. The land stretches ahead. The day unfolds. And you move within it, not driven, not hurried, but simply part of its quiet flow. You continue forward, the steady rhythm of the day now fully settled around you. The light is clear, the air gentle, and your body moves with a quiet ease that feels familiar. And yet something beneath the surface begins to shift again. Not in the land, not in the group, but in the way your attention gathers around certain moments. You notice it as you pass a patch of ground where the soil has darkened not from water, but from something else. The texture looks slightly altered, the surface more brittle in places, softer in others. You slow. You crouch. You touch it. The soil feels different here. Lighter. Almost fragile. You rub a small amount between your fingers. It breaks apart more easily than the surrounding ground, leaving a faint trace on your skin. You pause, studying it. There is no immediate use for this. No clear reason to stay, and yet you remain. You look around. The area feels quiet, still. You notice a branch nearby, partially broken, its surface rough and dry. You pick it up, turning it slowly in your hand. Then, without quite knowing why, you press it lightly against the altered ground. It leaves a mark. You pause again, then press a little harder. The mark deepens. You lift the branch, looking at the line you have made. It is simple, faint, and yet it remains. You trace it again, this time with your finger. The shape follows your movement. You sit back slightly looking at it. This is different from gathering, different from shaping tools. This carries no clear purpose, and yet it feels like something, a moment of interaction that goes beyond need. You look at your hand, then back at the ground. You make another line, then another, and they do not form anything clear. Not a pattern, not a signal, but they exist. A trace of your movement left behind. You pause looking at them, then you stop. You stand slowly, letting the branch fall from your hand. The marks remain for now, but you know they will not last. The wind will pass. The ground will shift. They will fade. Still for a moment they were there. You take a slow breath. There is something quiet in this realization, that not everything must remain to have meaning. You step away, leaving the marks behind. The group continues moving their pace unchanged. You follow. The land stretches ahead steady and open. The sun continues its path across the sky. Time moves, and yet something lingers, a sense that the world is not only something to move through, but something to leave small traces within. You walk a little farther, your attention returning to the environment, the ground, the plants, the movement of the air. Everything remains as it was, and yet your awareness feels slightly different. You notice how your hand brushes against a surface and leaves a faint impression, how your steps press into the soil, leaving marks that will slowly disappear, how every movement creates a small change even if it does not last. You glance back briefly. The place where you paused is already harder to distinguish. The marks are faint, blending back into the ground. You turn forward again, your steps steady. Your breathing calm, the day continues, and you move within it carrying that quiet understanding that even the smallest actions leave something behind, even if only for a moment. You take a slow breath, letting it settle. The land stretches ahead unchanged in its form, yet always shaped by what passes through it. And you continue forward aware not only of what you take from the world, but of what you leave within it. You continue walking as the day begins to soften once more, the light easing into a quieter tone that feels familiar now. The rhythm has returned again just as it has before. Movement awareness, small pauses, then movement again. The cycle holds. You step across the land with a calm steadiness, your body responding without effort, your senses open but not strained. There is no urgency in your pace, no pressure in your steps, and yet something feels different. Not in the land, not in the sky, but in how everything comes together. You notice how each part of your day is connected. The search for food, the quiet gathering, the shared movement with others, the moments of stillness, the subtle awareness of danger, the way your hands shape what you find, the way your body adjusts to cold, to wind, to rest. None of it stands alone. Each part leads to the next. You pause briefly, looking out across the open space ahead. The land stretches wide, unchanged, and yet filled with meaning. You step forward again, your movement steady. There is a quiet understanding forming now. That life here is not guided by control, not shaped by tools of power or lasting change, but by something quieter, adaptation. You feel it in every step, in the way your body responds before thought, in the way your attention moves without effort, in the way you remember, anticipate, adjust. You glance toward the others. They move with the same calm rhythm, each person part of the same flow, though no one directs it. There is no leader here, no plan spoken or written, and yet everything continues. This is how it must have been. A life shaped not by certainty, but by presence. You walk a little farther, your steps carrying you toward a familiar kind of place. A slight rise, a cluster of stones, a space that could offer rest when the light fades again. You recognize it without needing to stop. You will return here, or somewhere like it. The pattern repeats. Not exactly the same, but close enough. You take a slow breath, feeling the air settle within you. The day begins to lean toward evening once more. The light softens. The shadows stretch. You feel the cooling air touch your skin again, just as it did before. Nothing is new, and yet everything continues. You step forward, your movement calm. There is no need to hurry, no need to resist, only to move with what is. You begin to notice how the world around you does not demand anything beyond your awareness. It does not change for you. It does not pause. It simply continues, and you continue within it. You walk across the land, your steps quiet your presence light. The group moves with you not as a single shape, but as a shared rhythm. Together yet separate, connected yet free, you glance toward the horizon. The sky holds the same slow shift, the same quiet transition. You have seen it before. You will see it again. And in that repetition there is something steady. Something that does not need to be understood fully to be felt. You take another slow breath. The air is softer now, and the light dimmer. The day is closing. You move toward the place you sensed earlier, the shallow shelter among the stones. It is there just as expected. You step inside, feeling the stillness settle around you once more. You lower yourself, carefully your body, remembering the position. The ground meets you again. Firm, cool, familiar. You adjust slightly, finding that balance between rest and awareness. You look out toward the fading light. The horizon dims. The first stars begin to appear. The cycle begins again. And as you sit there in the quiet return of night, something becomes clear in a way that does not need words. Before fire, before light beyond the sun, before warmth that could be created and carried, there was this, a life shaped by the world itself, by its limits, by its rhythms, by its quiet demands. You close your eyes slowly, letting the last of the light fade behind them. Your breathing settles. Your body softens. The sounds of the night begin to rise again, distant and calm. You remain there, not separate from the world, but part of it, held within its slow, steady movement. And as the darkness deepens, you drift into that quiet space once more. Not fully asleep, not fully awake, simply present. The land rests. The sky stretches above, and you within it continue. The night settles gently around you, now deeper and softer than before, as if it has learned your rhythm just as you have learned its. The air cools in a steady, even way, no longer sharp, no longer demanding, but calm. You feel the ground beneath you, familiar and constant, holding you without effort. Your breathing slows, each breath longer than the last. The sounds around you soften into something distant, something that no longer asks for your attention. A faint movement somewhere far away, a quiet shift in the air, then stillness. You let your body rest fully now. No need to adjust, no need to listen as closely. The awareness fades gently like the last light slipping beneath the horizon. You are safe enough, warm enough, still enough. The stars continue their slow movement above, unseen now, but steady. The land remains as it always has been, unchanging in its quiet presence. You drift further into rest, your thoughts loosening, your body sinking deeper into the calm. There is no urgency, no tomorrow to prepare for in this moment, only the steady rhythm of breath. In, out, slow, even. The world continues around you, but you no longer need to follow it. You simply remain, held within it, as the night stretches on and everything grows softer, quieter, more distant. You rest, and the world in its quiet way rests with you. Sweet dreams.